we're campaigning against you? Not quite. Let's see. What is the date today?
Today's that. By the way, Maureen, you wrote 20. You really don't want me to be.
I know exactly.
Waiting for Melissa to say. Isn't that funny? Exactly. I thought you were just trying to push me out.
Here you go.
Thank you. I don't remember.
Today's the 18th, right?
We're five, so April. Plainly. Yeah, I better sit down. Good evening. I'm going to call to order a regular meeting of the Hastings Board of Education for April 16th, 2024. If you're following the agenda, we have a number of items. They're just listed online. The documents are online. If you want to make space for student report, for public comment, and of course for our own budget discussion. So just to make a note, the report from the superintendent is posted online. The administrative reports are posted online. And Eliana, if you're ready, we're going to open up tonight with a student report. Oh, thank you.
And while she's positioning, we've been asked to make sure we each speak into the mic when we speak. The sound has been a little iffy, but we've realized by studying the tape, thank you, Melissa, that one of the problems is people were trying to speak in the mic from here as opposed to right here.
You can hear the difference, yeah.
Hey, that's close enough. Okay, I'll start with Spirit Week and Spring Pep Rally. So Spring Pep Rally is tomorrow on a Wednesday, which is a little unusual. Usually it's on a Friday, and then we have a Spirit Week the week before that. So Spirit Week actually started last Thursday. So we've had anything but a backpack day on Thursday. So people bring anything but a backpack. Friday was pajama day. Yesterday was tacky tourist and spaghetti western. And today was barbecue dad and soccer mom.
Barbecue dad.
So I came in with my baseball cap, my apron to our meeting today. So it's also a grade v grade competition. So SU reps are taking photos of people in their grade wearing Spirit items. And then at the end of the week, it'll get tallied up. And the grade with the most amount of photos or people dressed up will get an ice cream party. There's also a teacher competition for the department who has the most dressed up faculty throughout the week. So shout out to the science department. They all came dressed as sharks, onesie sharks for pajama day.
Oh my God.
All of
That's
them.
pretty hot.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, and this all leads up to tomorrow, spring pep rally, last pep rally for the seniors. Crazy that we're already here.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, all the grades will wear their grade shirts, and there'll be various dances from the spring sports teams. There's going to be a teacher balloon stomping competition. So excited for that. So we look forward to a great afternoon of fun and lots of spirit. Other news, I need to make a comment about Senior Assassin, which is happening, which is an annual game. I'll explain the rules. The seniors play. Not everyone plays. You sign up to play. If you're playing, you have a other senior target. You get out this person with a water gun. You cannot get them out within the building. You cannot get out if you're holding the safety item, which changes week per week. So the first week it was a plastic spoon. Last week it was a beach towel, have to be worn around the neck. And this week it is a pacifier that has to be in your mouth. So they also incorporated a new rule, which is purge hour, which is actually happening right now. But luckily I can't get out because I'm here, which means no safety items work and anyone can get out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you also can't get out in a sports practice. So, but it's very fun, and if you win at the very end, every time you get someone out, then you have their target. If you win, you get a free prom ticket, something sweet,
that's nice.
fun.
Oh.
Okay. Speaking of prom is May 28th, Tuesday, and seniors can buy their prom tickets now from Miss Dolan. And May 1st is going to be decision day for the seniors. So At this point, all the seniors know all the colleges they've gotten into. So I'm happy to say, I know we were talking about it earlier, I am going to, after my gap year, which I'm going on a gap year, I'm going to Harvard. So very excited.
Is that why you're wearing your crimson?
I know. I didn't even realize that. So it still feels unreal that we're already at Harvard and that we're at this point already. So very exciting. It's almost emotional to see where my fellow peers are getting in and seeing what the future will bring to them. Okay, so other exciting news, I gotta talk about Urinetown. School musical was this past weekend. My goodbye to Hastings theater program. So Urinetown, directed by Lori Bolton, was this past weekend. It went amazing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Lobby design, for anyone who saw, was designed by Emma Geldman. Absolutely amazing. There was toilet paper wrapped everywhere. Nice. Design, it was crazy. So huge thanks to Lori Walton, Bob Walton, and Phyllis Udis. And I also want to just talk a little bit about how amazing our theater program is. Because if you were there on that Sunday show, we do a special senior goodbye. And after the show, the whole cast, after all the parents had left already, the whole cast stayed on the stage for another half an hour, just hugging each other and crying. And it was so emotional that the cast has gotten so close together from all the grades, senior through freshman, that it's just such an emotional experience. And it's beautiful, and these are memories that I'll hold on to forever. So thank you, Hastings Theater. Also, on an emotional note, PL ended with the freshmen. Last Thursday, we said goodbye to our freshmen. So now the seniors are still in PL every day during lunch. We're starting to read the next set of applications for the juniors. So that's exciting. Okay, change tones a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about a passion project of mine. So on Friday, April 5th, I got the opportunity to give a school-wide assembly presenting an interview-style video on the dangers of drunk driving to the whole school, sponsored through the SAD Club, Students Against Destructive Decisions. So a couple years ago, I made a video interviewing a couple of my friends from Suffern High School who had lost a friend in a drunk driving accident at their high school. And through SAD Club, thanks to Miss Rep, thanks to Miss Hardesty, I was able to present on this. That's also one of the beautiful things about Hastings, is that we have the opportunity to have student-led projects all the time. And all it takes is a student having an idea, and there will always be teachers and administrators there to support that student and uplift these ideas and make them come to life. So that's one of the beautiful things about Hastings. Okay, moving on. This Thursday, AP European History, we're going on a trip to the Metropolitan Museum in the city, learning about different styles of art, from the Renaissance to modern art. Excited for that. Other note, the PSAT was today for the sophomores already. And brief sports update, Hastings varsity baseball all-star shortstop senior Luke Suzuki was nominated this week for LaHud's Baseball Player of the Week. And another nomination, varsity softball pitcher Siri Rosenberg was nominated for LaHud's Softball Player of the Week. So congrats to them.
Great.
And this week is the end of the third quarter. So we have tests throughout the building. Everyone's wrapping up, getting ready for fourth quarter. That final push for the seniors. Can't believe we're here. So that's it.
Thank you, Elena. Congratulations again on
it's
the university and on the play Urinetown. All right.
Let me, if I may, just a planned reinforcement here. I was able to be at the Sunday production, and it was well-deserved emotion from the 27 seniors. And what I said to a group of them who were in my office today over lunch, many schools may do that. That doesn't matter. What went on in our auditorium was just remarkable. Everyone was shared and thanked. Regardless of your role in the production, you were thanked. And the adult role in that was incredible. And then I'm a returnee to Hastings who knows from whence this person speaks, stopped me on the way out, and I actually know them a bit. And they had returned from elsewhere and could have settled anywhere. And they said this auditorium went on this afternoon Sunday was why they picked Hastings. So yes, it's the theater, but it's the symbolism of what was going on in that packed auditorium, along with the student musician, with the adult and professional musicians. So it was really an incredible mix. But it was the symbolism of what a community can do together, in this case linked by theater and music theater. So that was really powerful. Then today, and Ms. Lennon Santana was in the room, so maybe in the board comments you'll get to that, but we had seniors from the student union talk to us with advice, what should we be thinking about going into the new year? And what was all about, make sure you're sharp on the transition from Mr. A, Ms. Hardesty, and Ms. Coker into the future. So it was all kinds of layerings around that, but incredibly wise insight from the seniors, including Ileana, on what we should be paying attention to. So I just wanted to add in both the theatrical comment on the theater, not done theatrically, but the comment on the theater, to thank you and all of your seniors, and then that carried over to into my office to say, here's what you got to be thinking about for the future. And final comment, whether I'll hold you to or not, you all said as current senior PLs, how can we help even from college next year, or wherever you may be, gap year or not, given your concerns about the transition that we're all paying attention to. So that's a little bit of an added update.
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to add about, I love the Hastings Theater Program, and we're so lucky that we have Lori, who is, just a member of the community. I don't even think she lives in Hastings, but she always dedicates herself to it. And the other part of what I love about it is that the upperclassmen are mentors for the middle school, especially with tech. I love that the upperclassmen participate in that. And I think, anytime we keep talking about how we need our kids, especially our middle schoolers, to have the influence from the older kids. And this is just yet another instance of how that happens. And I think it's really wonderful. So, yeah. So the musicians, everybody, but also all those people who volunteer for the younger kids, I think is terrific, too.
Thank you.
Lori doesn't live in Hastings, although her son did go to Hastings High School.
She's incredible.
Amazing.
Were you there on Sunday?
No, I couldn't face the tears.
There were a lot of them, my goodness.
I was also a Friday night person.
I see. Yeah, thank you. Moving on, I'm going to open up to, thank you for coming, so I'm going to open up for public comment. So whoever, in whichever order is listed, feel free to approach for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening. I'm Stan Medita, 1973 graduate of Hastings High School, current president of the Alumni Association. Don't live in Hastings right now, although I do own half a house in Hastings. I currently reside in New Fairfield, Connecticut. And I'm here to speak about the music department and what might be a cut in the staffing. Last meeting you heard from Clint DeGannon, who's a professional musician who told about his experiences in Hastings with the music department. A lot of us didn't become professional musicians. Some of us became educators and working in other areas of music, but for most of us, the music department was a very special thing for us. When I started out playing saxophone in the 4th grade, my goal at that point was to make it through elementary school band, intermediate band at the time, and the high school band, and to be the first chair on the high school band. And that goal stayed with me, throughout my education here at Hastings. The music department was great. We certainly got a lot of attention from the different teachers. I took saxophone lessons with Pete DeLuke. A guy by the name of Joe Hantro was in charge of the elementary school band and the intermediate band, and he was always there for students whenever they needed help and guidance. I found that music taught me some things too, that some life lessons. I had an after-school job, and I had of course my regular studies. But I also had to put time aside for practicing my music 3 mornings a week in concert band, 2 afternoons in jazz band. So, you know, I learned a lot about, you know, time management, about, you know, doing well and striving. And we had a good number of students, too, that went on to take part in county all-state competitions. And, you know, a lot of them probably did not have a chance to follow up with music later on, but again, what they're learning is how to compete, how to prepare, and how to better themselves. And that's a life lesson that, you know, they take with them as they start out on their career. And I think it's, you know, very important that, you know, all during this process, there were educators here at Hastings that guided us along to achieve those goals. And it's, you know, something that, you know, it needs to be ongoing and encouraged by the school and by the community. And as you just mentioned, you're in town, the production, that was great. You know, it's, you know, the combining of the arts, and this is what Hastings is all about. You know, anybody going through the school here and interested in the arts or band or music. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
It's okay. Andy Zimmerman.
Hi. Well, I'm here with a little more information, hopefully not disinformation or misinformation from a parent. Yeah, so thank you for the information about that you put out in the music frequently asked questions document and the spreadsheets. I did try to crunch some numbers to my best ability, and what I came out with, and you know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, the people that know, it seemed as though if we keep everything as it is and we get rid of one teacher, we'll end up with John Carini having a 1.53 load next year, and Eric Day having a 1.63 load. As you know, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Even if they wanted to do it, there aren't enough hours in the day. I could go through, I could add up all the figures, but I won't even do that. I can give it to you later if you want to see them. They're both not only great teachers, but really nice people who are unlikely to complain about the added work put on their shoulders, but the people that will end up suffering are the students if their teachers are forced to do way too much. And that's not even counting, it was revealed on these documents that a lot of the kids aren't even scheduled for lessons. In 7th and 8th grade, the low brass, the percussion, and the basses aren't getting lessons, and in the high school you can add that to the saxes and trumpets are also not getting lessons already. And you know, that made me realize why my kid has not been getting them, or he's been getting them very infrequently. The reason is that his teacher is not getting paid for them. So it's just not right. And I hope some teachers are watching, and maybe you'll want to go to your union and ask them what's going on here, because it's not the way things are supposed to be here in Hastings, that we're asking teachers to teach that much. I mean, with that 1.53 and 1.63, then you could hire an extra teacher with benefits, good job, get a good person in here who could teach kids, and that's what's justified in this situation. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Rabin.
As always, I'm a terrible public speaker, so I apologize for that. My name is Patrick Rembush, 137 Southside Avenue. So I'm a father of two wonderful sons. One is an 8-year-old who has experienced 2 years of indoctrination, and a 5-year-old who's about to enter the school system and hopefully will not. You might wonder why I'm using such strong words to describe something seemingly innocent, a class that on its surface pretends to teach children respect and acceptance. Well, most parents, just like me probably, would be shocked to find out that the material used to teach our children about gender don't come from an educational institution, but from a political lobbyist group called HRC. They have a building in Washington, D.C., trying to influence politicians how to vote. They also donate their ways of thinking through teaching aids that can be found at welcomingschools.org website. They use beautifully illustrated children's books that celebrate diversity, love, and self-empowerment ideas every parent supports, and pervert those by inserting some ideological points into their lesson plans. In there, our young children are told you can assume others' gender by how they look, or that you can't assume pronouns until you ask, or that your clothes is your gender expression. According to those ideologues, a cute book about red crayon that's actually blue is an opportunity to talk to students about complexity of gender identity. As a lobbyist group, they might be expert at manipulating politicians, but what do they know about early childhood development? Would those people be surprised to find out that it's not until around age 7 when a gender permanence is formed, or that children's minds are not like those of adults, that concepts easy to grasp for an adult might not be age appropriate for a child who at 6, 7, or 8 is still developing their gender consistency. Based on all, and I really mean all, early childhood education literature, any talk about gender outside of biological binary before children turn 7 or 8 is fundamentally wrong. Children learn by looking and actually are proud of their achievement of seeing the gender of other people. Pronouns are used in child's minds to categorize reality. Again, children are not little adults. They conceptualize the world differently. Simplification of the workings of the world is a child's way to make sense of reality. This is something those welcoming school lobbyists who on a daily basis deal with politicians rather than children might not fully appreciate. The contempt for working of the mind is not seen only in the that organization treats young mind. The arrogance towards grown-ups is palpable too. They show teachers how to indoctrinate, I'm using this word consciously, students by infusing with gender idea. Our second graders should be less concerned with reaching correct answers about how many apples a kid and his parents picked in the garden than that the parents in the example are actually 2 moms or 2 dads. This is the sort of indoctrination this group is pushing on children and teachers. Should our kids, and that includes those who are gender not conforming, that are indeed part of our community and should be welcomed and supported.
Your time is up.
3 sentences, if I may. Be subjected to whims of such lobbyist firms. And again, we can do better. We shall be able to find a way to teach our children about gender without disregarding early childhood development research on how children perceive gender as a binary. For a child, biological sex equals gender. There's no escaping that fact. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Alex?
Alex Lunius, 14 Euclid. My oldest child is in 2nd grade, and I've been coming to these meetings for several months. I hear a lot of advocacy going on at this level and within the schools themselves. From what I've heard, a lot of attention is given to our differences and our children's differences. And yes, differences are what makes individuals unique, but in groups they can be used to divide us. And this is what is driving our current culture war and is creating... Hello?
Try again, I think it might still be on.
Can you hit it? We can hear you.
I can hit it harder.
Oh, it's okay, it's on.
Okay. And is creating divisions within our small community.
Not on.
It's
not on.
Does Teresa speak?
No, the audio
Yeah,
is
he's
hitting
saying
the...
that's good.
Okay, now we get it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's creating divisions within our small community. Instead, we should be focusing on our similarities and teaching inclusivity to our children rather than always highlighting our differences. I ask the board, administration, and principals to step back and seriously consider the impact this is having when developing plans for next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jetta Wilson?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Jetta Wilson, 200 Old Broadway. I have a question and comment that was relevant to tonight's budget session. I saw some previous documents that listed ELA professional development on this year's budget. I know that in previous years, it has invested in a professional development provider, Gravity Goldberg, who has was previously worked at Teachers College and on our own website describes herself as a balanced literacy professional development provider. There's a group of parents who have been meeting for over a year to talk about how to best align literacy practices in the town and the village to evidence-based literacy and science of reading. The question I have is, what is the ELA professional development being provided to teachers at Hillside next year? Do we believe that that investment is best aligning to evidence-based literacy and science of reading? And what are the innovations the school is hoping to make to best align their practices there? And love greater transparency and clearer description of the vision of how that professional development will be used to support the teachers at Hillside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Weatherford.
Hi, thank you. Christy Weatherford, 11 Warren Street. I am the mother of 4 children. My eldest is in 2nd grade, and my younger child is heading into kindergarten, and then I will have 2 more coming through this district. It's my first meeting. I'm really happy to be here. A lot online. I have a lot to say about literacy as well, but Jetta is a literacy expert, and she put it very succinctly, our concerns. I'm here to speak specifically about technology and technology use in our district. I am a technologist, and I work in tech. I also am an elder millennial, so I remember the before times, and then I got it in kindergarten. So I've lived both worlds. I really have extreme concerns about my 2nd grader coming up in between like 3rd and 4th grade and then getting greater access to technology that we don't really allow in our home. Given my profession and my access to technology throughout my life, I have just noticed a lot of data and evidence and my friends, children, anecdotal community issues kind of really come to the root of technology. And I think that I really wanted to know or have considered into either next year's budget, having someone really take a look at the data really influenced a greater access than is warranted in children's lives and in the classrooms. And specifically, I have a great request to just ban YouTube unilaterally at Hillside, which could be a change and save me a lot of grief with a child neurodivergent and has very poor impulse control. That would be really detrimental to his experience. It's very inconsistent with what he has access to at home. So thank you very much for your time. I do want to make one point about gender, since it came up today. I have one child who has very, very strong views about gender, and I have a gender questioning child. And it was a very, very tough experience prior to joining Hillside, but after the gender curriculum, that tension in my home has completely dissipated. So that is just my anecdotal experience, that the age-appropriate talking points enabled me as a parent to speak to my gender questioning child, that you know yourself best and you get to tell us who you are. So I did find a particular part of that curriculum very valuable. Thank you very much for your time.
So this is a free-flowing conversation on whichever questions we might have.
I want to frame it for you first.
We'll do that first.
Yeah, our deck, which is really a summary of where we've been, highlighting there are some updates from contextual things we know more about, i.e. the region, how we line up, also we are relative to the state, and then we just want to make sure that the board's seeing quite visibly the FAQs have been put up generally, as well as the FAQs have been put up specifically for music. Maureen will move through this pretty quickly, but then we'll be wide open for however you want to have the discussion. We just want to frame it.
Yeah, sure.
Other key point there is we work really hard to leave a running record in the public materials on the website, and since this is a key discussion for you, it does put another document up into the record. After tonight, the budget book that you all have as board members, that also will be posted, and that's the incredibly detailed document for all the ins and outs of the budget, to use plain English. So, Maureen?
Yep. Thank you, Bill. So again, we're just have a few slides here tonight. If there's a slide during the board's discussion. So again, we've started each meeting reviewing the dates and where we are in those dates. And as see tonight, per our budget calendar, the board is to adopt the spending plan for the 24-25 school year. And then there's a few other key dates. The public hearing, which again, these are many of these are prescribed by law, is May 7th. And there's some other. We're also going to present at a PTSA SEPTA forum, which on May 8th, because we feel as it's helpful to people as they're coming closer to the budget to have an opportunity to ask questions and learn more. And again, the trustee budget vote, May 21st. So again, these are numbers we've shown, and throughout our budget process, these numbers have remained constant, and they reflect where our budget to budget is, as well as our recommended tax levy for next year, which is at the legally compliant tax cap. And again, shows what the resulting tax rate increase will be. And we've spoken about this before because it's driven, although by expenses, there's a factor in there based on the proposed assessed valuation. So that's not to say that taxes will be negative, but rather that the tax rate itself will go down, and how it impacts individual tax payers. The only thing we can really control is that levy limit, which again is 3%, a little over 3% next year. I'm not going to run through these, but we have it for the record. As Bill said, we've just feel we'd like to stay consistent. Occasionally, line items in here through a budget process could change, so we just kind of want to always include this to show kind of each change. But as I mentioned earlier, during this process, we've remained the same on all of these all of the numbers in each category. And a reminder, our budget to budget is increasing by about a little bit over $2 million, and we're proposing about $1.5 million of increased taxes. And then the remainder will come from either budget reserves and some additional state aid we are slated to receive. Now, we did put this again in the record. It's funny, Bill, on the screen it doesn't have the lines. Oh, it's funny, it's not showing all, okay. So do you see this, Melissa, on the screen? It's not picking up the other. Yeah, it looks a bit different. This presentation will be attached to the board agenda.
It doesn't look like that on my screen.
Oh, it doesn't. So
right. It looks correct.
You can see the information on the bottom. Okay. So the reason we put these in here, as Bill said, so every district, for the most part, we're asked each week through the beginning of the budget process to report our numbers. And in addition, there's other numbers we do report out in that information, and it's gathered, and it's Westchester Putnam School Boards, and they put it together. And it gives us an opportunity. We're also, in addition to that, each district will report out maybe some unique factors. So if either a budget is either very low or very high, there may be other situations such as like increasing debt level or decreasing, right? But for the most part, it's a really helpful tool. And in that, we're also able to report out and provide additional information such as additional staff members or reductions or whatever the case may be. There were some districts that did not report, but I believe this data is about 50 districts that did report, and this is the latest data that we do have. And you know, as we look around the region, we do see that as we look at our individual numbers for Hastings, there are other categories also. There's like a first quartile and a third, but I try to just keep it low, medium, high instead of putting all the factors in there because it really captures the majority of it. But as you can see, not on the screen here, but on your individual screen you have in front of you, as we look across where Hastings lands on all of these different trends, we're right below the median in terms of our budget to budget, which is 3.53, and the median across all districts is about 3.85, with that high right under 10%. Our tax levy, we're slightly above the median at 3.19, with the median being right below 3%. Now, the next factors, and the reason I included some of these was just things we've spoken about before in terms of how much funding do we receive from the state on our budget each year. And as you can see, we receive, the median is about 12.35. There are many districts in Westchester that receive close to very little, as you can see, 3% of their budget. And as you can see, Hastings actually receives a bit over the median. The reason this is important is I think realistically, the district will never receive more than, this is the highest percentage of our budget that we've seen in as long as I've been here, or close to it, because as we know, last year, Governor Hochul did fully fund the formula, which drove an additional 1.7 million to the district, not this year, but the previous year. Prior to that, we were below 10% of state funding. And again, I just caution us here, as we've spoken about through the budget process, that last year was sort of an outlier, and most districts, not only Hastings, but every district that I've spoken to, or even the New York State Controller himself, has cautioned that to anticipate a declining funding from the state. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Not so much as that, for just practical reasons, they don't have the money to, there's only so much money the state can really have in their budget. This is off again, right?
Yeah. It's recording, though.
Okay.
Okay. Can people online hear it?
I probably not. So that, oh, there we go. So again, just although we're grateful to have the current 12% we have, and that puts 12.63, as you can see here, puts us over the median. As we look at future budget years, if anything, that percentage of our total revenue package will likely go down. And then how much money did we use to balance our budget? As I mentioned earlier, we did increase the use of reserves available to us, and we are currently recommending a $1.5 million appropriation of fund balance. And as you can see, that puts us right about in the median of what we're seeing across the region, with some people using none, and then at the high about $4 million. Now the last thing here, and I just included it, this is how I think I had mentioned earlier, and it's, again, as Bill said, really for the record, how is state aid calculated in New York State? And the funding formula is greatly driven on what is called the combined wealth ratio. And I put the definition on the bottom, which will be in the public record, although we can't see it on the screen. And it really says there's two factors that the state uses. They use the real property value of the town or village or city, and they use the income wealth per student, which is really driven, of course, on when people file the New York State taxes, where they live. They put there's a municipality code, and that's what goes into the data. So as an example, the higher the wealth or the village property or the wealth of the assessed valuation of the town goes, it then drives the amount of aid we would receive down, right? The more higher income earners that live in Hastings, the less aid you get. So, and that's for everyone. So everyone kind of is challenged with that. But the reason I put that here is you can kind of see, again, where does that leave us? Again, interestingly enough, our wealth factor is 1.55, and that puts us right in the median of the county in terms of wealth ratio. And again, there's the high, really, there's most, if you looked at the data, most people are in that 1% to like 2% range. There's a few that are at that very high. There's not many with a 4.58 wealth factor, which is significant. There's about 3 or 4 districts locally that have that. But again, it's something just to keep our eye on, because that as we look at the state aid, we have to caution that the state aid is, we're never going to get bailed out by the state. And there's a formula that they don't have the money, and then also because of the way things are, the formula, and it is to drive more aid to the less wealthy districts. Yes, Jody.
My
yes.
apology if you said this, but can you just explain what the wealth ratio is, what that means?
So this is the formula that is used by New York State to determine how much state aid should be generated to each district. Mm-hmm. And it looks at two things. It looks at the property wealth, and it looks at the income wealth of a district. And again, they have this information, but not that we don't send it to them. New York State, they have it, the real data. And they use those two factors in a way to determine how much money should go to each district in New York State. And as I just mentioned, so as we see like the assessed valuation of the town here go up, that does have a direct correlation on how much aid we'll receive. So, as well as income levels. So we know for Hastings, it's problematic, but as I mentioned at earlier meetings, districts like Mount Vernon and Yonkers and New Rochelle and White Plains and Peekskill are actually hurt more by this formula, because although many I think we understand that there's a wide variety of, income earners in those towns. What they all do have is a very high property value with very high need students, but the formula is driven more on wealth than it is on need. So that's the tricky part. But, it does make sense in some ways the way it's formulated, but I think as we were fortunate to have the 12% we're receiving this year, but I think we have to be realistic that will likely go down as we've seen it in previous years. And it was just a few years ago that it was, under 10% of our budget.
Maureen,
Welcome.
can I ask a question
Sure.
about the wealth ratio? So the higher the number, the wealthier the district? Is that right?
Yes, correct.
So why is it that so 4.58 means a wealthy district?
Yes.
But why would they get 44% of their budget?
Oh, no, they're
aid?
not. It's not comparing those two. that they would be high, but they would only receive probably at that 269 level of aid.
Oh, it's not a horizontal line.
No, no, no.
They don't
sorry.
correlate with
Yeah,
one
they don't,
another
I see,
necessarily.
I see, got it.
They're just
Okay, this
saying-
is just like the
yeah.
high, mid level
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
each one.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
individual.
I understand. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Because even districts like Irvington, as an example, they have, out of the river towns, we have the second highest wealth ratio. So it's Irvington, Hastings, Dobbs, no. It's actually, I think we might be the third. It's Irvington, Dobbs, Hastings, and then Ardsley with the least. So, but Irvington, I think only has about a 1.7 wealth ratio, and they get significantly less aid than we do, just based upon that, not a significant increase over the wealth ratio, but there is. And then Ardsley, because they have a 1.22 ratio, 1.2, they're getting significantly more aid than us as a percentage of their budget.
I was told that when the mic goes off, they still can hear us.
Oh, you can? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Shouldn't
Thanks.
worry about
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
I just
All right,
thought I
perfect.
could talk about that.
Yeah, so again, this is just a data point. It's more connected to like the state aid and just how that's generated. So I just kind of included it.
I'm sure you may not know this,
Sure.
but do you happen to know if this tax ratio,
Pull your thing for
yeah,
us.
you're right. I should speak to it regardless. Do you happen to know whether the tax, in terms of developing the ratio, the income is more significant in the computation versus the property? Because
I think
I
they're both
personally-
equally weighed. I don't think that like one has a higher weight over the other.
Because I feel like they can't just be relying on.
Well,
I think they should.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah,
At some
we
point, I
can-
know you can't determine that,
we
but
can
at
get you
some.
that answer.
But you know what? I think that what you just said really is very on point, because I think the one thing in Westchester County or Lower Hudson Valley that has been a long complaint of ours to the legislators is the cost of living down here is significantly higher.
Correct.
So I think, I think that's the point you were probably
Correct.
trying to get at. So like, okay, if somebody makes $300,000 or $400,000 of household income versus like even an hour north or so, there's a cost of living impact. Even with our utilities, that's significantly higher. So I think that's the piece in which we typically, we understand they have to come up with some type of formula, but we've always asked for, they do have a ratio that they do try to put in a regional cost factor, but it's significantly less than it should be.
Okay.
They
My
tie us to like a mid-state ratio in this area, and it, Long Island gets a better breakout. So anyway, there is
So-
another ratio that's tied in
So
there.
I know Dr. Mackenzie said that would be very, something that
We
we
get
provided,
your
but,
answer.
Yes.
But my follow-up to that
Mm-hmm.
was, do the superintendents influence those kind of formulas in any way?
No.
No,
They
No.
don't. Okay, you cannot.
no.
That'd be great. No, sadly, no.
I want to be super clear, no.
No, okay.
But
Okay,
it,
got it.
yeah, but as I said, no, we don't, but I think, I know Bill's group as well as my group, that's something that, one of the things, and it would be the one, because each individual district may have one or two things that would benefit each individual district, but one thing that would benefit all of us in this area is if there was more consideration to the cost of living. So that is one of the things we advocate for when we meet with our legislative body that represents the area.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
that we feel as though it's a missing part of the calculation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. on about that anymore. Okay, sorry. Okay, again, these numbers, I know we can't see them on the screen above. We just, again, wanted to highlight mostly on this slide the state aid number. So, you know, our revenue, what we're proposing in revenue has remained constant in terms of other sources of revenue. And the only one we've had a question mark around throughout this process is the state budget, because as we know, it is delayed. It has not, although there's some signaling that they should be coming to a agreement soon, depending on who you read from. But there are other lingering issues that have to be resolved. But with all that being said, I think in trying to get a good best estimate of what we're going to receive, we do believe we will receive a reduction in what we're seeing last year. But overall, we believe we should be in around, the best case scenario, we'll get about $100,000 more from the state. That, I'll put it simply, because from what we're now hearing, the signaling, they may leave us held harmless on foundation aid. So currently, we made a adjustment of about $100,000 there down. So if it's hold harmless, we would get 100. So that's really currently with what I didn't project the worst case scenario in building the budget. I did kind of a, you know, some things knowing they would be restored. I didn't put exactly what was being proposed by the governor. I put something a little bit more optimistic. Currently, if some of what we're hearing from Albany comes true, we may end up getting about $75,000 to $100,000 more. But I think as we've spoken about in earlier budget meetings, our recommendation would be just to return it to reserves, because we did increase over our comfortable, you know, feeling of what we're using to balance this budget. Yes.
Do you want me to save my questions for the end?
Yeah, why don't
Just
we
write them
move
down?
through it?
Yeah.
Because we wanted to set the stage with this.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
So again, tax cap, for the record, we've gone through this calculation, just shows what our legal limit is. I did again put some things here in regards to the state aid challenges, and again, in terms of the budget not being finalized, and if there's any, again, it's not so much what we should be receiving next year as we've spoken about multiple times, it's about in those out years, what we believe may be a challenge for us in terms of any reduction that we receive, or even a leveling off, quite frankly, because as our expenses go up and state aid doesn't, it creates larger gaps. So again, that's something that we are, you know, concerned about as we look to the future. And as Bill mentioned, we just hyperlinked in the budget document for the FAQs in there as we receive them, and we can certainly add more to those FAQs after tonight or as questions come up through the next couple of months. Okay, I think we're keyed up for board discussion.
Okay, thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome.
So let's open up, I guess, if any specific questions for Maureen, let's do that first, just so.
Yeah, I just had a question about page 8, because the way we're kind of making up the money from next year to this year is through the interest, it looks like, on the interest payments that we're making. Can you explain to me, though, what day school tuition and tuition other districts?
Sure.
Does that mean we're having fewer kids from out of district coming in? And
Correct.
is there a reason for that? And is this something we should be happy about because it frees up the student-teacher ratio, or something that we need?
So I guess it depends who you ask, who would be happy. Typically, they laugh. They say, they're always like, Maureen, we don't want to, like, I'm going to be out on Farragut Parkway with a sign. No, but, you know, so for us, it's been a good source of income. It is something that I've seen it as high as 500,000 in other years, what we're projecting for next year. And it really just has to, I don't think it's, I think it just goes in ebbs and flows. I think based upon either students we know are currently here, and then as we graduate out people, this is a time of year we'll typically know if there's some interest. We have a few families maybe reach out to us, do tours, and we may project out having some of those join us next year. So it has been a good source of income. I don't think the numbers we take in really has an adverse impact in terms of student. I mean, it could on an individual but not necessarily the ratio, because typically there's only 1 to 2 per grade level. Like if they are to come in, they're not typically clustered at any particular grade level. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on it, but actually we projected 300,000 for this year, and what then occurred was some of our tuition paying students did end up moving into the district, so that what we typically have seen is that if a family may have one student, but if then they have more than one child, they'll, over the course of time, move in the district before that second child comes, or they use it as they're looking for a home in Hastings. So it's not unusual to somebody in for a year or two and then the family to move in. So, and then as far as tuition other districts, that again, we have some special ed programming here, similar to we place students in other public school districts. We then have districts who may reach out to us, and if we have room for those students in our programs, we will accept them and then build the other district tuition. So again, this number, again, I've seen it 700,000, and I've seen it 50,000. So it really depends upon, needs of other districts and what we're running in a given year.
Great. And I have one more question about
Sure.
before we get into general questions.
Yep.
Regarding the solar rental,
Yep.
I know you're estimating 35,000 for next year. What do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to remain flat, or is that just new? And what do you think it'll get to? I'm just curious for like 27 or 25, 26.
So even next 24, 25, we actually exceed that number. So it was really, when we developed the budget, there's two revenues we receive from the this agreement. One is like a licensing agreement fee, and then the other is the actual rental. But until they're fully up and running and they're actually generating is when, then that other revenue kicks in. So the 35,000 is really for the licensing, which we know we were guaranteed to receive. Anticipating as the project is getting closer to now, it seems as though it's, there was a time, depending on different factors, that we weren't sure if it was going to be fully online next year. But I believe once it's fully online, it's definitely over like 100,000. Something good.
And then do you expect our utilities to go down after that? Because
we are not using that energy. That energy is going for the community then to, it's a community solar grid for. Well, the thing is less than Con Ed rates being with NIPA. So for us, the break is better to give to our residents. It's better for us. Guaranteed revenue with where you have lower rates.
It would be very interesting to see at some point what the savings, because I signed up for this, but I don't know if everybody can sign up for it or did sign up for it. But it'd be interesting to see what the savings per household ends up being. Our taxes go up every year, but this can be an offset, but thanks.
Yes, no, I think as once it's fully online, I'm sure the company.
So those are my specific questions about the slides.
Okay.
Thank you. And Maureen?
Yeah.
Jody?
A few. Couple very quick, but
Sure.
First of all, thank you for the FAQs, both for the budget and for the music. I think it's really helpful. In the budget FAQs, the first question about how do we address the decrease in state aid and by increasing the appropriation of fund balance. Sorry. Two people wrote to me and asked me what's the fund balance, and I thought it would be better for you to just explain it in my sloppy words.
Yeah. So there's two ways we've balanced this budget. So we have what's called a unappropriated fund balance, which is money that's kind of free and clear, and it's not. We have the reserves that we've spoken about that are either set up and funded for very specific purposes, such as retirement payments or tax restoration payments or ability payments. Then we're also, the fund balance that we use to offset the budget is when in a budget year, say like this year, our revenues exceeded our expenditures. So that means that at the end of fiscal year, if we have, let's just $1 million left over, we're then able to say, okay, we're going to use that $1 million. And there's a few things we could do with it. We could put it into some of those other reserves, or then we could use it to offset the following year's budget. So what we're doing is instead of, that's how districts fund reserves also, by the savings. So instead of maybe putting a little bit more back to reserves than we would have liked to, we ended up using more of it toward next year's budget. Yeah.
Well,
If I just may add to that, I've said it before, but again, New York's in a very good place allowing districts to do this. And it is a bit of a political discussion up in Albany and always has been. So it just means you as a board should be extra thorough with us that we're managing those fund balances carefully, because we don't want to lose this opportunity.
Right.
Having led 2 districts in Connecticut that does not provide for this, we probably would be bringing a 5 or 6% increase in community. It's just a very valuable tool that the state allows us to have, as long as we're very thoughtful and cautious about it. And indeed, some of the monies in the balance where it's set, we have to come back for a vote on, example, for some capital things. But anyway, I just want to reiterate how important this is, and it's right for the board to scrutinize us. And remember, last meeting, we gave you a specific report out on these, and we're required to do that.
My next thing is just a point I want to make, and the other thing I'm going to leave to the end of this discussion. I just, maybe at some point, obviously not right now, someone could respond to Andy Zimmerman's thoughts and questions about the time the teachers, music teachers are spending, and how we would address that question.
Sure.
Yeah, if I could, because I was actually going to ask if I can jump in, because, finally. Can we talk a little bit about teacher load, if anybody has numbers like that, or how it works, how teacher load works currently in the music faculty? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
I can jump in. Before you jump to that, my question was connected to what you said, that it can't be one package. I have a question that is. Yeah. Okay. So I think that it would be easier to, instead of
3 times.
So I have 2 things on music, but I'll just say what you both of you have just mentioned. When answering that, if you could, I know there are Schedule Bs that are extra. If I can know how much that is costing, the extra, like just an estimate.
How much the Schedule B's cost?
Yes, only because that is not part of the Schedule B, is on top of what their schedule is. And just for the higher educators that have reached out to me about it, we would look at it more like you're full-time and you're adjuncting on top. And so you are getting extra for adjuncting. And so what would that estimate be like for all the 3 that we have under the Schedule Bs right now? Just estimate.
Well,
only because of
I don't know about thinking of it that way. Maybe that's a way to think of it. We have a lot of Schedule Bs, and it could be from, the chess club.
No, I'm asking specifically about the music. Yeah. I'm not talking about just the music,
saying
because
that
I want
it's
to.
not like an ad. It's like something. It's like if you decide you're going to coach girls soccer.
I know. My specific question has to do with the music.
Okay.
There are 3 Schedule Bs on what has been put out there, and I just want to know. And again, it's not just me alone. It's based on other inputs that I've received.
So I can answer both of those. So full transparency, the collective bargaining agreement is posted online. And the Schedule Bs, actually, I can tell you the page number where it's listed. So if you go to district departments, if you go to departments and you click on business office and you go to HTA, both the working conditions in terms of teacher load and the Schedule Bs are embedded in the collective bargaining agreement. The teacher workload in terms of how someone is full-time or not full-time, if you look at pages 2 into the upper part of 3, workload is defined. In some cases, it's number of periods. At the elementary level, it's number of minutes. And then anything that is Schedule B is listed as an addendum in the collective bargaining agreement. So if you continue to scroll down, you'll find a list of all of those. People can apply for those. Those are optional, and they have been historically happening in our district because people want them here and they want to do them. And I've never heard anyone upset about additional pay. So that's fully available right online.
This Schedule B is actually, sorry to interrupt Melissa, but it's actually in our board doc tonight.
Yes.
Under appointments. It's all
Correct.
listed there.
The
Right.
Updated version, which we really updated.
Right.
So my question, specific ask is the
new ones for
estimated
next year.
amount. Yeah, the estimated amount, only because.
In dollars or numbers of?
In dollars.
Yeah, well, it's very clear, it's contractually arrived at, and that's the reference that Melissa's referring to. So we could pull that up
So-
from the contract if you want. It's all, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Maureen, Melissa.
so I want to just go back and be very specific about teacher workload. So high school academic teachers instructional load, maximum of 5 periods per day in the high school. And then thinking about, and special teachers are 5.5, thank you. If continuous teaching time exceeds 180 minutes for K-5 teachers, there are some conditions around, some breaks that may be entitled to, but it's defined as minutes at the elementary level. And then in terms of Schedule Bs, I'm just scrolling down. So Schedule Bs begin on page. Okay. On page 39 of the collective bargaining agreement. And so in the music FAQ, I separated out like which was Schedule B and which was actual instructional load. So anything that's associated with the Schedule B would also be associated with Schedule B pay and not coupled with teaching load.
I know that, yeah. That is very clear.
Okay. And so to be able to look at those music positions, I'm just getting really specific. Yeah.
Yeah, just estimate,
I would
not
say it's
specific.
like no more than like 15,000 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It's about,
Right?
So, yeah.
You're looking at what, jazz band?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, jazz band is like
So-
3,400.
Okay.
So we do have a member of the music department who has an entitlement for a .2 release time as department chairperson. And so to have that general music position, that is why that person would be a 1.2. So they would currently be teaching .8 with a .2 release for department chairperson because that's how that's set up in the collective bargaining agreement. And taking on the additional .2 to add back the .2, it would make that person 1.2, but that's simply because it's basically 1.0 with students and then .2 for department chairperson. So it's replacing that release.
Are there any, apart from the chairperson, are there any other musical faculty that are above 1.0
No.
for next year?
Okay, so let me be more specific. So the FMS says select chorus for 5 and 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's jazz band. Is it a Schedule B for one person or
They're
two
different
people?
things. Two different
I know
things.
that.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, one person could technically do both, but like they get a separate.
I know,
yeah.
I know. I trust me, I understand more than you think. And again, most of what I'm asking is not just coming from me. So I'm just trying to get the answer, not from me. Even one person can do both grade 5 and 6. It's just like teaching 2 different classes, so it's not a big deal. So it's 2 individuals. So for the jazz band, how much extra estimate is one person going to get? It's just, again, it all has to do with the money. At the end of the day, we are doing
About 4,000.
about 4,000. So it's roughly 8,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I would ask my second question later. I just said I was going to ask the Schedule B because we were talking about Schedule B. So I would ask my second music question later.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any other follow-on questions from where we're at or a new topic?
Are you guys done? I have a couple more. more questions. Okay.
I have more too,
I don't
but
want, okay. I just have a question,
take everyone.
going through the music FAQ, point number, sorry, I had it. Oh, about the general music available in grade 7 and 8, and what are the
What number, question
Number
number?
6.
number 6, yeah. And then number 7, so I get it, Mr. Creaney's going to be teaching the general music. Do you know yet, or could you tell us a little bit about what a general music class would look like? Is that something that they get every day? Will that be one of the FACSs or AOK classes? How will that be structured?
So this will be happening, right now we're finishing up the master schedule, so I'll have more information specifically and can add it to the FAQ about the logistics of how that will work. Preliminarily, it looks like it's going to be sitting last period for 8th grade. And what it actually looks like is not a performance group. It's like it is what it is, like a general music class.
But that will be a full year class for 8th graders?
I believe it's a half
year.
for a semester.
Half year for,
Yeah.
half year for 8th, half year for 8th, and then half year for 7th
Half
as
year
well?
it'll sit in 8th grade.
Because it says in grade 7/8.
7 or 8, yeah,
So
it
pick
has
up,
to,
sorry.
it has to take this, the requirement is that it has to be in 7th or 8th grade. They have to have it in, and where it will live in the master schedule, as of right now, they're finalizing that, is that it'll be semester for 8th grade.
Okay. And is it possible to look at, as Mr. Nguyen is looking at the overall agenda and schedule and what we're doing for especially AOK and FACS, is there an opportunity there to think about how we could bring music into those classes? Or has that already been decided?
Meaning, do you have it, Melissa?
I'm just to clarify, meaning to count as the credit?
No,
or
just to
integration?
possibly, but I guess, but it's only, those classes are only once, every 1 quarter. I'm just wondering if there was any, if we could think about, I guess you don't have to answer it right now. My question is, as he's looking at revamping those particular sections, if we could consider music opportunities in those sections.
As opposed to what's here, or as in addition?
As opposed to what we currently offer now.
Well, I think the better approach is to get back to what we're supposed to do per the state, holding on to that 5th grade robust effort. Stay with that, come back to the 7th and 8th, get that back in, because the other would be, I think, very complicated in terms of credentialed areas, staffing, time, and adjustments.
I was just thinking, I guess, from 5th grade to 8th grade is a big jump to have nothing in 6th and 7th. And I was just looking for something that we could possibly do in 6th and 7th with some of the scheduled time we have, knowing that we're looking at what those classes are and what they look like.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that is a different and also constructive question, which is we look at the future, what's happening with music between 5th and then up to 7th. Okay, we have to have a fair number of students performing. The music department is enthusiastic about having all 5th graders because that gives them a shot, build on what happened earlier or pick them up and then generate sort of the interest in all the rest. So we can definitely look at that. That's a future year issue. As you may recall, we have a scheduler coming in over the summer to work with the administration on a number of things.
Right.
Some of that will lead to some adjustments maybe as soon as this new year. Some will be the year after. Because, as you know, education doesn't always sprint to change. But we can take that down as a question for.
Great.
That's helpful.
And then has elementary chorus always been a Schedule B?
Mm-hmm.
It has?
Mm-hmm. All of these are the way they've been. This is not change, I don't think.
The only change was to make a more robust 5th grade music program, and that's why there was the shift from the general music. And the .2 that we're talking about restoring would cover that state requirement.
And then I just have another question regarding the lessons. one of the people in the district brought up. I know that we've never offered one-on-one lessons, but do we offer lessons for? We offer lessons.
Yes.
So you play in the orchestra, say, but in addition, you all have time when you have your own lesson, if all the cellos practice together or whatever it is.
So the answer is yes, and the music teachers schedule the lessons, the configurations, and the numbers of students. So they have had, the locus of control has been there in terms of who's participating. So I'm just trying to see here. So in some cases, it's brass instruments or woodwinds scheduled together. In other cases, they can be separated. So our teachers have expertise in terms of how they're grouping, their frequency, and they have a rotation that they schedule where students come.
And this is part of the music teacher contract who teaches chorus, or not chorus, but rather orchestra or band. That's one of the responsibilities for them, is to also teach the lessons.
It's not written in the contract that they are to teach lessons, but it's good practice in terms of what you would do to be supportive of students from a differentiation instruction and having instruments rehearsing together. It's teaching.
But
they have,
right,
it is scheduled. So anything associated with the Schedule
responsibility.
B is associated with the Schedule B. Anything that's associated with their 1.0 teaching load, the lessons that are associated there are part of that.
Right. So it's a required part of their
schedule.
Right, so when we said, before we talked about teachers having 1.0 load.
Right.
The lessons do not add to that, they are part of the 1.0?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question on the point of question 6 in the music FAQs. So when we moved the 7th and 8th grade general music to the 5th grade, kind of put that towards the 5th grade, is there any other implication for however many years, 1 or 2, that they didn't have it since it was required?
So my understanding is that this just happened, like the last year or two. We're picking up the 8th grade for general music, so I don't see that as an issue right now, and we'll circle back, but this is something that, that we discovered that was, a building level decision, and we are addressing it.
I'd like to echo what Doreen said about there being no music for 2 years from 5th to 8th grade. I think that there's so many specials that could potentially be moved for, I think we should look at the specials that are being offered. I think we should do a survey of the students about what they think and how valuable they're finding FACS. I think that would be really valuable feedback, because to not have a child in any kind of, for a child who is not playing an instrument, to not have any music for 2 years is it feels too long.
Is it also a question of, just time in their schedule? Like, there is no gap currently, right? We have to reconfigure.
Right, which is why an FACS or an AOK is an opportunity.
Both questions are exactly right. I think, as you've heard from Mr. Nguyen several months ago, as he presented sort of his plan and thinking, this is right in the middle of that. So,
yeah.
But there'll be a give to add it in, and make modifications. But we want to look at that. I mean, right now we're in a very thorough revamping of the Courageous Conversations, and we'll update the board and the community on that shortly, but that'll be for next year. It's going to be a very different course, renamed, all the rest. So we're on that path. This is related but different, but even that has, within the existing status, staffing implications. But I think we can look at all that. We will look at that, but it'll have to be for fall 25. I mean, we can't pick it up now and get it in. But we can definitely be reviewing and understanding and be very inclusive in how we understand.
Just a quick point,
Sure.
not a question.
Go ahead.
Just a clarification. In the curriculum review cycle, music is next year?
Fine and performing arts are scheduled for a phase 1, which is we dig in and we take a look at what's going on together. And we define a problem of practice or an area of interest that we want to tackle.
So that'll be next school year.
Next school year.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Sure. I just want to, I said this last board meeting and I want to say it now so that it doesn't, I just think it's healthy. I am going to support the adoption of the budget. I said that last meeting and I'm still consistent with it right now. So the question I'm asking is something that I want us to tangibly look into. I know, thank you, Maureen. I had to say that first. Thank you, Maureen, for being very patient, meticulous in everything that I needed to do with it. And thank you for clarity. You know I like clarity. Thank you for providing it. Appreciate you. But I'm asking this because at the end of the day, I know something can be done about the music. And I'm just trying to provide the transparency that the community has, I personally have come to me so that we can talk it through, because this is our work session and I don't want it to just come from me to them, but just to understand it with that full transparency. So one of the driving question was, at the end of the day, I know that they want 6 FTE. They've done comparison with other schools. We all know that losing someone was very emotional. And so the push, regardless of how we look at it, is we are a district that cares for the arts through and through. We want 6 FTE, however we are going to argue it. And so how can we do that moving forward? Not necessarily right now, but we need to do that and not let it fall below 6 ever. And so I just want to say this in support of music, putting it in its level. Yes, I care for DEI, but I just want to say that the significance of music in education transcends just placing it into recreation or all those comparisons. It's people's careers. It's like becoming a medical doctor, you know, it's like becoming a scientist. And so it is part of the academic program. And when I first joined the board, I literally did not like the fact that when we have budget constraints, we start looking at programs to cut. I would rather we are conservative with everything else than programs that directly impacts our children, because that's why the school exists. And so with that said, I know with the clarity of the budget, this is, I want the community to understand that this is the best we can do right now, but we always improve to do better. That's why I personally will support it. I don't know about the others. I don't sidebars, so I don't know about the others, but I'm talking for me. But I also know that we can work towards getting at least the 6 FTE. And so with that said, I want to understand, and please help me with this. So what I did was I went to the Schedule B to sort of delineate what I'm looking at and tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I just want to clean my head. So for example, I'm looking at Hillside, and there's Little Kids Rock, 3 and 4, and then Elementary Chorus 3 and 4. Okay, and then FMS, there is Chorus 5 and 6, and then Jazz Band 5 and 6. Okay, and then for HHS, there is Chamber Music, there is Madrigal Choir, there is Pep Band, and then there's Jazz Band. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 roughly. For Schedule B, it doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 2 people teaching it, but those are the Schedule B items, and each of them is roughly 4,000, correct?
Yes, some are a little
less, yeah, depending. So, so with the 1 FTE, or now with the 1 FTE, or actually 0.8 FTE, if you are trying to get to 6, because right now we have 5.2, right? So with a 0.8 FTE, even if it's not a full-timer, we get someone like, my God, I'm so bad at names right now since, yes, like my, we get someone like Mike who's not a full-timer, but at least we still have a 6 there, a 0.8 FTE. I'm hoping that in the future, all of these Schedule Bs, which is roughly 48,000, 50,000, can be given to a new faculty person to some extent. You get what I'm trying to get at?
No, I do. I can help if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying now, I'm just saying that.
No, I understand.
Yeah, just
Well,
in the future, and also add the music, I'm sorry, Dr. Makesi, I want to complete my thought process. And add what my colleagues have said here, Teresa and Doreen, the music education aspect as well, you know, that way we maintain, not now, but we maintain the 6 part in the future. I'm not saying we should try to change things right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Makesi,
Yeah,
go ahead.
let me sort of, I'm going to try and be uber clear. These are all great points and great questions, and let me just double check, Melissa, I'm thinking out loud for the whole world here with you. When is the review? This coming school year or the next school year?
Next year
Meaning,
is
I'm going to be
phase 1.
super plain, meaning this coming fall, we're starting to review.
24-25.
Okay, thank you, because I wrote in my notes, we are deeply committed to music in Hastings. I sat in the last meeting and said, if I'm not seeing the numbers, we're not bringing this recommendation. We're still bringing the recommendation because this is adding up to provide the exact same programming this year as next year. Having said that, that's point 1. Having said that, point 2, we need to review what we're doing here. If we're so deeply committed to music in Hastings, this is my 3rd district I've led deeply committed to music. I started my career at North Mount Herman School. Go search them in terms of their music tradition. Back in '81, I'm dating myself. So
Well, you were
I
just a
am
student
deep-
then,
No,
right?
I was a faculty member.
I'm teasing you.
Making $6,000 a year, but anyway, it's a different story. So anyway, my deep commitment, and so I'm saying, 1, we are going to provide the exact same programming next year as we have this year, and then we have to review what's the best way forward to deliver diverse, differentiated program that brings as much as possible within a public school setting to students. And I think that's then that review will start into. Because the other thing, then this is the other point, point 16 on this, which was added, there's a key question here. Maureen and I worked on this very carefully. And I went down and I talked with John Carini about it, and Eric was there in the room yesterday. We are going to evaluate very carefully, this is question 16, an answer on page 4. If we get into this next year and our enrollment projections are not adding up and correct, we will then say, let's review what's possible. We're not going to leap to adding, but we will review very carefully. And as I talked with John Carini and Eric about it, we could simply say the plan next year is the plan, forget about it. It's not what we're saying. We're saying let's get into this next year and we'll monitor and review. And if we have to make some adjustments within existing staff, because unfortunately, we have to think in decimal points. But we are a couple decimal points about being at that fuller count that people are concerned about. So point 1 in review, we are deeply committed to music. We are keeping it going. We are not looking to reduce music in Hastings. Point 2, we're trying to right-size the staffing as we've done in other places, 1st grade, 5th grade, go all the way through the organization. 3rd, just immediate but long term, to secure and advance, get to higher ground in Hastings with our music program in all areas. And I'm immediately with question 16. All that ground.
Correct.
Demands, or Weston, Connecticut demands, or Greenwich demands,
Just
or
not
North
at
Mount
Weston.
Herman demands, you're not going to find it.
Correct.
Schedule B gives you that flexibility. Yes, have great talent. And we've heard for a couple months a reminder of the great talent, but it gives you that differentiation potential. And for someone who wants to go beyond the 1.0, for their time. Yeah, I wouldn't want you to, and it's very creative idea, but I wouldn't want to take 5 or 6 Schedule
Correct.
Bs for such a differentiated oppositions, and you may not have been saying that, glom them together and say, there it is, because you're going to get a glom, as opposed to a nice, diverse music program.
I totally get it, and that was my second, I had 3 points. My second point is that I see, and the reason why I wrote this out is because, just for the community to hear as well, because it looked like 3 Schedule Bs, but it's levels, and then the music type. Point out, I was going to part. So again, this is a discussion, trying to deliberate and open up apparently. So I get that argument that was shared, that, okay, look, I don't know, now it's roughly 50,000, but it's 8 different levels of music. It's like asking me to, well, I teach different types of biology, but maybe if this is physics, chemistry, and biology, someone doing jazz may not be able to. I don't know much about music except for my husband. So it may not even be realistic. It can be given to one person to do it. So I get that piece, but again, at the end of the day, we want the cry and the heart of the community is that give us 6 and enrich the music with more music stuff, like music education, like you said. And so let's see how we will get to that. It was going to be my London statement, that at the end of the day, give the 6. And if you have to do music education with that, so be it. But give us 6, because music is a career for so many people, not a recreation, and not something that we can just slash off. So thank you for just answering the question to that. I had, it escaped me. That's why I like to write things down. So sorry. I'll come back later.
Okay.
Sorry.
Could I piggyback off of sort of the same subject of, I guess, with the enrollment, which seems to be kind of a key thing. When would we have a date on enrollment numbers if that were to change? Directly an impact, right?
Oh, you mean in terms of music or just overall?
Just on the
Oh, okay. So I think as the schedule finalized come August, September, so I think if June, the numbers were starting to go in one direction or the other. And the reason I say the summer, because sometimes if you did end up getting different, we do students all summer. Not so much usually that's more at Hillside, but it is possible to see some students come in, and if we started to then see any area of the budget, and we said that in general because we are looking at other areas such as the projected 5th grade for next year and the projected 1st grade, where we are now, monitoring the numbers. Be finalized in August, but probably some sense of it by the end of June, because our counselors work the last week of June and the 1st of July, right, Melissa? Just to kind of finalize. So.
Thank you. I guess the other ask is in the review that's coming up in fall, right? If you could kind of suggested input. I mean, I know we heard a lot of people on the subject of music. I don't know if that could be factored in, or students look at input, and then bring piece if it were to be determined, okay, we want to move in that direction, we have different pieces of information informing that. How would that look? Because typically, right, it's not the best time to go out for hiring in the fall, but maybe it depends on the market, right? But what would that not translate to a, if everything leaned in that direction, would it not translate for a full budget year?
Well, I think with the music position, if we were seeing anything, it would be pocket. So I can't being that if we were to hire full-time, it would be an expansion, right? So if we saw in one area or the other that, say at the, like we needed someone to do more lessons or per se, we would probably post, it would likely be a 0.2 or 0.4, my guess. And this is consistent with what happens in other departments at the middle school and high school. If we're unable to find a candidate, we usually we don't force it on people, we have people willing to pick it up. Because they do get paid additional money, and it's not forever, so many of them are, I don't want to say happy, I think some people like having the additional compensation. So we've been pretty successful in that across the board, and, even currently, as an example, we have a few science teachers that are teaching above. That's not what we're projecting for next year for Mr. Carini is not different than what occurs all the time
So
here.
Maureen, it's a good clarifying question.
Yeah.
So the adjustment would be first and foremost looking within our talented music staff to say, for additional pay, will you do this additional work above and beyond the contract? Because that's the best approach and fix. Then if we can't go there, and actually we're obligated through the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, to do that. If we can't go within, then we would conceivably look outside, for that adjustment. I think the importance of the review, and Melissa has quite a that can certainly bring in all the, may modify the pacing, timing a little bit relative to some of these questions as it relates to 25, 26, what we're doing. Because a big takeaway for me, just to be super succinct, a big takeaway for me, the 2 months on this is, we sorted out we weren't doing something in 7th, 8th that we should have been doing, right? That was a building level decision. Now, so there's a lot of things we need to get better on. So that's part of the importance of the review. And it is about commitment to music, traction of commitment.
If I can add, I think programs of the comparable districts, and what impressed me, a couple things. Number one is that they're all different. The variety, how they provide them, what they provide, it's all different. And if we want to add something, it's not just about a number like a 6 or something. It has to be tied to programming. If you go and look at this comparable, they have more music teachers, partly because they're offering great programming, and you see in other districts photography, you see theater arts, which we used to have. You see other music classes like keyboard specific, things like that. Everybody's different, but it has to be tied to programming, and that programming also has to be tied to scheduling. If there's not time to offer the class, it's not going to happen. And so that instead of, for my purposes, figuring on a number or a sort of small goal, this has to be part of the cycle that involves the administrators and involves the department chairs to figure out some of these things. They mentioned the thing that we haven't been doing that we should have, or what you brought up, Teresa, this idea that a lot of us feel that's a big gap from 5th to 8th without any sort of instruction. And that's a question that we have to ask. I don't think that question, that's really a thematic, aspirational question, which I think a lot of reality. I think it's impressed all of us. I think all of us are partial to it. But that has to be answered by asking it. I don't think it gets answered by putting the 0.2 in or, budget question. I think it has to be asked system first, budget question on the other side of it. So.
Yeah, I remembered my question. So,
go ahead.
So what is the faculty class size load when it comes to music? Because I did ask this last time that, for example, when I'm teaching about class, the lecture class I've had a lecture class when I was at Lehman, 150 students, but the lab, it just had to be 24 because of the way it is. And I know there has been class issues that the community has talked about, the students' body have talked about it. 100 plus parents have signed concern about it, so that they feel, yes, the Schedule B is happening, but what is the class size assigned to music? Because the same size other courses?
So in the FAQ number 9, I broke it down by building. Always easy to see the tabs. So if you scroll down in the doc, there's the HES tab, which gives the course name and how many sections, and for each section's the enrollment.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
no, and then just for each building, there's a tab for each building.
Yeah, I got the enrollment piece. I'm asking what's the class size that, apart from enrollment, let's say we have 1 million students, how many would a person teaching a jazz class?
I mean, like, what's the upper limit for?
What's the
Yeah,
upper
so,
limit?
so the contract does, it does speak to the same grade class sizes that are for, just the general subject areas are different for PE music. It actually speaks to that. It really speaks to the size of the room. It doesn't go, except it does reference one number, but that's for phys ed, where it says, every effort will be to not be above 1 to 35 students in PE classes. So it says for music, it puts that in the specialized area where it says that it really has more to do with the size of the room and safety issues. So it doesn't specifically say, but I would say, similar to probably, depending upon, I know, like when you have chorus and things like that, you could have larger numbers.
Yeah.
But as long as the space is safe and
Yeah. So
that,
because realistically, from what I know, if you are teaching chorus, you can have so many. It's more
Right.
like a lecture.
Correct.
But when you're teaching, let's say, bass, my husband is a bassist. Like, you cannot literally teach. So
my guess
many-
would be the probably
you
more,
get
no
what I
more
mean?
than
Like, you
10.
need exactly
Yeah.
like 10 or something. So I think that as you rightly said, the department they have to sit down, and I like what Dr. Makesi said. I like what you said as well. At the end of the day, the department has to sit down. What programming are you trying to offer? What are the needs of our students and the wants of our students? How can we teach music education just as an education? It's not everybody who becomes a scientist, but we teach everybody science. So how can we create that kind of education for Hastings, which has birthed so many careers in music, and make it that tangible way? And this will connect to my next point, this is something that someone asked me to say, and I didn't want to say it, but I'll just say it because I like to bring silent voices. So they wanted me to ask a question based on a statement they wanted me to make, but I want to say it correctly. So there was a concern about what is the hesitation about making it a 6 when it's just 0.8 away. And I think there's a lot of explanation that has come up. And one of it that I know for a fact, which is what I said, and I'll say it here, is that first off, full-time faculty have contractual obligations of hours they have to fill out. So you have to deal with that first. And then that's what has been done. And then there was Schedule B, which is extra, which has been added. So that needed to get done, which has landed to 5.2 based on enrollment. So it cuts it. And that's, for me, this clarity is why I'm voting for it, because it's pretty clear. Now, so now the concern was that, okay, I think this ties into everything else in the moving forward piece, that if we are able to get, this person was comparing with the administration for special ed, which hits me directly, as you know, but it was more like we had faculty doing the work as chairs and all those things, and we save money by taking it away from them and giving it to one person and blah, blah, blah. But you have clearly explained that one person thing. You have 8 different things, so it can be for one person, right? So I thank you for bringing all these clarity of the points, but I think music is so vast, and we are already missing 5th to 8th grade music education, and I think that even if we just say that we want to offer music education and we want to hire someone, $127,000, including benefits for it, to consume into the budget, I think it will be a good thing to do. And I would ask that in the near future we consider that. So that's what I would end with what I want to say.
Okay. Thank you. I just have a question. What's the difference? I'm looking at the link that was made in the frequently asked questions about music offerings, and I'm looking specifically at the high school. Like, for instance, it says on line 21 that band is grade 9 and there are 7 students, but then there's independent study band, which is grade 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's 31 students, and it's independent study for band and regular band, and then independent study for orchestra and regular orchestra for 9th grade. I'm just curious, are those classes together, or what's the difference?
Yeah. So independent study was created for students for whom band did not fit in their schedule, which is very connected to everything we're just talking about.
Got it.
So what can be offered versus what students, what our hopes and dreams are programmatically. It all has to fit in the schedule. So this was a creative solution so that students can join the ensemble that's rehearsing before school. And so it's done as an independent study because they're not actually enrolled in the class during the instructional day.
So for example, I have a junior who has a packed schedule and he's in the orchestra, but he can't fit orchestra into his packed junior schedule. So he comes 3 days a week at 7:30 in the morning to participate in orchestras and independent study.
Right.
And is that that's not a Schedule B? That's a regular?
That
Schedule-
one.
No, that's a Schedule B, I
That's
think.
Schedule B. Yeah, that one is Schedule B.
Even though it says like independent study orchestra, there's 29 people in
Just
it?
double check it. Nope, I'm not correct.
Well, teachers by the, so music teachers, right, music teachers in the contract speaks to, they're able to start their school day
earlier.
before the school day begins. So that does count toward their teaching time.
I see.
It
Got
counts
it.
toward their 220 minutes of teaching time per day.
Okay, thanks. I thank you for all the hard work on the music part of it, and I just want to say something about music in general that I think is probably obvious to some, but maybe not. And I speak from experience as someone who was in band and orchestra for 10 years. I wasn't very good. I would not be very good today. I know we talk a lot about how people in Hastings go on to play and different things. I just want to emphasize that to me, it's about preparing you for the future. It's about having a group that you belong to. You have your tribe that you belong to. It's about understanding how one voice in the many can be risen up, how you need to work as a team. It's just like sports. It's like working as a team and how you're just as important as somebody else and how you contribute. And I think that to me is what music does, is it helps prepare you to be successful in the real world, whether you're good or not, whether you go on to do anything with it. And that's why I ask all these questions, and I'm so passionate about it. It's for everybody, and I think it really does prepare you for life beyond school, especially and even if you're not going to do music things after school.
Look at you now.
Yep.
Look at me now. You too could be a BOE trustee.
Alex, so I was thinking as I was listening to this that this is the time of year that I really dislike being on the board, even though it's one of the most important and really few things that we really actually have to do. And I was thinking how there's always a part of it that can be very excruciating in a way, because you end up making decisions or cutting things. And I thinking back to years ago when there was such debate about whether we have foreign language in the elementary school, which I guess we don't have anymore. And probably everybody here would say we should be having that, because when else should you be learning a foreign language? But that, like many other things, sort of went by the wayside, not went by the wayside, that's not the right way to put it, but it's just like in our own homes and for so many people in life, there are times where you have to make decisions about what you can afford and what you can't afford, and I'm someone who wants to believe that I can afford every single thing I want, even if I can't. And that's how I sometimes feel here. Well, why can't we do this? This isn't okay. We should be able to figure this out. And I think that Hastings, I'm guessing from what I know of people on the board, that we are all strong supporters of the arts in Hastings. And I think that's a lot of why people come to Hastings. I mean, that's what we're known for. And to have to cut theater arts or music or, you know, any part of the arts is really, or to make changes, it's not easy. I feel like we've pushed this, and I guess I'm trusting you, Bill, in terms of what you're saying about how we're going to think about this and how we're going to look at what happens next year, because it seems like I believe that we're going to be, from what has been presented, that we're going to be able to offer what we've been offering. And I think there are a lot of people around this table who will scream if we're not, and not to mention people in the community. But I think we've done a very good job of trying to manage all of that. I'm hope and I believe from what you're saying that the music department buys into this, and that I don't think we could hire a full-time person to do all of those Schedule Bs.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that wouldn't be possible.
Of course not.
So as I think back over the years, there's always been something that has sat right in terms of a budget, but that in the end you have to kind of go, or I have felt like I usually come to a point where I'm fine to go along with what's being presented. And I want to thank you for all of the hard work that's gone into this. I wanted to ask just one other question, I guess to you, Bill, in the context of talking about the budget. If you could just say something, I guess to the community. There have been I've heard some questions raised about what's happening with the bond and where are we with that and how does that fit with this? And we haven't really talked about it that much lately, but I think we should just give a little bit of an update of where things are so that people understand that we're not, what we're doing right now.
Yeah. So thank you, Jody, for that. I think we've been so consumed with budget talks lately, we haven't provided an update maybe as clearly as we could have. So we are in the final stages. We took a slower approach. We slowed down a bit. We are still also investigating options for boilers at Hillside. So we're at a point in which we, in the next few weeks, we'll be able to review some of the findings that our team has been working on with all the stakeholders internally here, and really looking at the building and looking at a lot of different information to give us a much more tiered approach or different options that we were kind of looking for. So the next steps in that will be, meaning internally, we'll have an opportunity to kind of look at some of those findings. We will have a meeting with the people who participate in that, the building program leaders, the school administration, and then shortly after we're able to review it to ensure that we believe it's captured all the information correctly. We then have
information of what the needs are.
The needs of the building, right? So we know
all of the buildings.
All the buildings, including the boiler, including the fields, including everything that has been spoken to previously. I think there are a few items, such as like air, some of those things that we kind of know, we didn't relook at them, but they'll be added onto the list. So the step after that is we're in the process, actually, it'll definitely go up by the end of this week. We are going to be reassembling a facilities, like a community facilities committee to work with our board facilities team in kind of reviewing this information. We're reviewing it with this group, and we've done some preliminary reaching out to some folks that have, either come to meetings and showed to be interested in what we're speaking about. We'll send out something more formalized. I know there's a few people who have said, hey, when you're ready, we would love to be part of the process. So we have those names. So what we're hoping is maybe within the next month, we're kind of, once we get beyond this, we're kind of in the tail end of our budget, we'll have an opportunity to come together with the facilities committee. Maybe, I don't know the exact number, maybe somewhere between 8 and 10 community members. I mean, we can talk about what the number should look like. I'm just throwing out a number based on previous experience working with groups. And I think what we're hoping to do is have everyone kind of review the information and then provide, it's still an opportunity to kind of flush out what we should be really doing and prioritize and, you know, have different voices in the community, both people with children, without children, who never had children, you know, all different stakeholders. So we'll be getting out a notice to people to see if they would like to be part of that team, and then we'll be publicizing the date, and it would be an open meeting to other, like in addition to, it'd be a facilities working meeting where then the people that are kind of part of the group will be an advisory, and then other people can, of course, come and watch the meeting. So
it would be fair to say to people that we do not have a bond in the works at the moment. There's nothing that's part of our vote coming up that has to do with a bond. And also that it's possible, maybe likely, that to address the boiler issue, we could use reserve funds.
Yeah, so the plan for the boiler is still to use the reserve funds. The only reason we hadn't included that as maybe a separate line item is we're still determining what boiler may work for us. We were seeing if there was any opportunities for other, you know, not a replacement in kind, but maybe a thermo or some other technology. So, yeah.
So there'll be 2 votes coming to the community, most likely 2 in the fall, regarding probably that boiler issue. Looks like we'll bring it to the public in the fall.
Which we have to do if we use the reserve funds?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to, it was sort of what I referred to earlier, but not clearly, which is there's certain, the village residents have to vote on that.
Okay.
But we're fine tuning that analysis, looking at the potential of thermal, et cetera, to do that, but that would come out of reserves. We have such facilities needs here, the likelihood of us not bringing a bond, it would be verging, I'm going to be blunt, it would be verging on irresponsible for us not to bring something for the long-term educational benefits here. We have to really analyze, though, what is the best bond to bring, what's affordable, what's in it. So that's what Maureen's laid out very thoughtfully, very responsibly, to bring in more input from a committee process, advisory. The ultimate decision makers will be the board. There's a facility committee of the board, but we wanted to broaden the discussion. And things you've been hearing from us, from the other analysis, substantially the Farragut complex is in need of attention, as we've talked about, and we have a playing field issue we have to understand. So I would be very surprised if some point this next fall there isn't a bond brought, but so there'll be a lot of quick, strong, fast work, given we're almost in May.
Yeah.
But that's the anticipation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd probably be, I mean, like late fall, like not,
but very
you know.
simply, clearly, there's not a bond up this spring, and the first vote will be around the boiler.
Okay, thank you.
The other is much more complex.
Yeah.
And as we've seen in neighboring districts, I mean, I think, you know, we just saw, like, say, as an example, Arts, I think what we wanted to look for was, as I mentioned, there may be, as Bill mentioned, some more immediate issues that need to be addressed. And, you know, although it's, people like to do a vote, but, you know, we may want to kind of see if there, as part of this group, like, are there a set of projects we want to consider doing, you know, in the fall, and then understanding, you know, maybe in 12 to 18 months later, we would be looking to bring another set of work. So, and I say that instead of doing a larger bond, like look at, you know, what are the immediate needs, and then, prioritize it. Because I think, you know, as we look at, you know, everything, once we get the whole package and understand the pricing and all the rest, then I think it'll help us really make some, and then, of course, as Bill said, there are things that are, like anything, of course, safety, anything on with the safety or, you know, being able to be in this building, we'll be able to address. But I think we'll have, I believe when we've kind of directed them is we're going to have both short-term kind of solutions, meaning there could be some budget modifications that could happen in a, you know, relatively sooner vote. Then there could be like a longer-term consideration that, again, is not to be voted on right now, but kind of it's like anything, you should have a multi-year plan, and then you can say, well, we're, you know, let's try to do some of these things now, and then maybe in a year or so look to do another set of projects when, you know, we can afford it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for raising it, Jody. Can I just sort of clarification, though, you know, one of the key supports that New York State gives us apart from foundation aid is the reimbursement for capital projects. Because it makes sense, you know, a district builds capital goods and then they have a duration that benefits the community for decades, hopefully. We have a certain reimbursement rate that we get from New York State on qualifying projects. As part of the sort of negative outlook for New York State fiscal support for school districts, is it a concern that the support they're going to give us as far as the reimbursement rate might go down in the future, which would make the bond more of a present issue?
Yeah, yes, there is, that is part of what is being spoken about currently with Governor Hochul, just in looking at, and that's all expense-driven aid, so it could be anywhere from our BOCES reimbursement to our transportation aid to our building aid ratio. So I think, I think the one why I think they've haven't or touched that, I mean, my guess would be that, it does drive business in New York State, right? So there's an active lobby from Teamsters and things like that to keep, that ratio healthy, yeah. So I think because that also then has other benefit, right? It kind of keeps, that industry going inside New York State, because school districts do a good amount of work, and it generates a good amount of contracts for other unions in the state.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Well, I just had a question. I was going to ask something. I don't know if it's tied to the budget or not. It's in the business items. It's the professional development plan. And per one member of a district who just spoke to about professional development, I was curious. In the professional development plan that we're voting on, there's no dollar amount attached to it. I guess this is just the plan that you show the state. But I was wondering if not tonight, but at some point we could have a presentation, or however you want to do it, about what the professional development plan is for next year specifically, and what will be taught and kept, if that's possible. Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other further comments or questions regarding anything? We're going to move to a trustee vote on the budget shortly.
Can I ask a question? Obviously, this is my first budget season, so forgive if I'm asking a question at the wrong time. Some community members raised to me the cut of a classroom, a first grade classroom, which would increase enrollment. Could you just speak to the numbers?
Class size, you mean?
Yeah,
sure.
Can you just speak to the numbers so the community can have clarity?
So the recommendation it has to do with our current kindergarten cohort, which will be moving into first grade next year. They're currently in 6 sections and are averaging there's some classes with 16, 17, I think they're really averaging at 17, but some of them have 16 or 18, depending on, I guess, just class placement. So that going into first grade, that's a bit on the lower side, which we've been committed to keeping our kindergarten numbers a bit lower with, especially a lot of students, maybe not so much anymore, but we're coming in without preschool and all the rest, prior with the pandemic. But typically from the first, second grade level, we typically run them about 20. So by collapsing it to 5 sections, it will be about 20 students per class instead of 16 or 17.
What is it currently?
16 or 17 per class.
No, in first grade.
Well, first grade, I mean, it's 6 sections, but it's not about the grade level. We move it with the cohort. So you could have a cohort with 5 sections, you could have a cohort with 7 or 6. So it's really based upon that, where's the current K going into 1?
Right. I guess I'm just asking, like, from a teacher perspective. I'm a first grade teacher. This year there's 20 kids in my class. Can I expect that the same number next year?
Yes. It's just that, right, because the current first grade is in 6 sections, but they're a larger cohort. So it's still like 20 students per.
Yeah, the numbers are very close. It's a good question, because one of the difficult issues is it's several places across the organization we have to use the phrase right size, enrollment relative to teacher, and that's part of what's happening in the music discussion. So the rising first grade, rising 5th grade, you could ask the same question for the rising 5th grade. But we've looked very carefully at, so there'll be slight adjustments as the ratio, but it's still within the band that we feel educationally it makes sense and is defensible. And I mean, some families will zero in on a 1 or 2 student adjustment. The reality, that's not the swing. It's once, if we get out to 4, 5, 6 student swing, which we're not there at all.
Okay.
And we have been carrying a lower number, K, as Maureen mentioned, because, and you're a preschool expert, because many had not been in preschool or whatever, whatever reasons due to COVID, et cetera. So that's why we did carry, and the board agreed to do that, a smaller number there. So that's part of what also is going on in that group moving up. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
But that would be, again, and I mean, any of the cohorts, and this is always happens every summer, that K through 5, I mean, again, as Bill pointed out, it's really that first grade and the incoming 5th grade we will be tracking. And we do look at our rolling enrollment all the time. Our registrar keeps it up to date, meaning we have seen occasionally things, kind of blips where like, just for some reason we'll get, 10 new students in the first grade. Like, so if something like that were to occur, we may then have to come back similarly as we were talking about with music and say, okay, now we're up to making this up, 23 in first grade. That's a lot higher than we've run them in the past, 7, 8, 9 years. And we need now to add a section there. So, occasionally we have seen a blippy kind of enrollment at just a kind of not intermediate, but in first grade or second grade.
And related to that question, just as the budget's built, there's a lot of interaction at the building level from Melissa, Maureen, myself. At the building level, they're very deep in it. Also, the HTA is very, very well aware of this entire proposal at the different grade levels, what it means. So they understand clearly across all program areas and the buildings what is occurring here, what it means for their members. And we're not doing this just the 3 of us sitting around and bringing you something.
Right,
There's a lot of interaction. Because they're good questions about, well, did they just sit in central office and come up with this? No, not at all.
No, but it's also dynamic, because it hasn't been atypical for even over the course of the summer, certainly while I've been on the board only for the 5 years, for there to be an influx of people moving in as new residents, and for there to be a need in terms of the shuffling and the accommodation of staffing to appropriately serve those students. So that's something that happens on a fairly regular basis, and why I do think that however we decide to vote on this budget proposal put forth to us, I have seen that the board is responsive and the administration is responsive to what they see as how adequately the services are being delivered to the student population, whether that's in, sciences or athletics or whatever the area may be. So that was just in response to what your question was.
Good question. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Is there a motion to approve the adoption of our 24-25 school budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, or?
Aye, is what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry,
you did?
you're
I
coughing,
did,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure, so.
She's on my wing.
Okay.
I already voted before all of you, so.
That's true. Thank you very much. Moving on to business items. Are there any questions or comments regarding business items 1 through 5?
I just have a comment about having Sarah come in. This is what I love about Hastings. Like, she grew up here, she graduated, she lives here, and now she's helping out because she has an expertise that she gained. I love that.
Like Doug Friedman.
What?
Like Doug Friedman in the music department.
All right.
Yeah.
It's true. Is there a motion to approve our business items 1 through 5?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving
May I
on.
make just one comment there regarding what you just voted on? You note there we are making a shift in our communications partner. I want to thank P&W BOCES. I want to thank Jackie for excellent work, particularly as our most recent communications associate. They continue to work incredibly hard for us and with us up until the end of the contract period, as Jackie's done. I think she's brought our work to a much higher level than it had been, and in this shift to a new partnership, which is our more typical BOCES partner, they're very much looking at that work to build on it and expand it. So I just wanted to, given the vote you've made, you had a memo here that only spoke about Southern Westchester, because I'm looking forward, but I did want to put in the public record a very sincere and warm thank you for Jackie and her work. Jackie Saviano to some official and formal here for her work.
That's nice, and I would second that too. She really brought a high standard and thought about things in a fresh way, and it showed in the work that she provided. It was really good stuff. So, you
So
know,
the new contract starts
July 1.
yeah.
I really want to echo Jackie's work, really. She's been incredible. I mean, we were in the same committee
Yeah.
at that time. She listens really hard, although she's an expert. Like, she's an expert, but she listens and sees, like, in all her work. Like, I remember sometime I was asking her something, I'm like, how would you do it? And she's like, but what are you thinking? You know, she's very, you know, I really like her, and I'm really, like, she's brought a new look in working really closely with everything. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to placement and services for CSE and CPSE. Are there any questions or comments? No? Is there a motion to approve our placement and services for CSE and CPSE?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to personnel. As a consent agenda, are there any questions or comments regarding our appointments, our amendments, our leaves of absence, and our retirements?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Whew. I'm not going to go through and talk about individual people at this point, though I could for pretty much everybody here. You know, a lot of these people have been here for a very long time. I kind of attribute my son being a middle school social studies teacher to Dom Cesare.
Yeah, he's great.
Who just makes it fun, but you learn. And this is big. And, you know, I'm not good on loss and separation. But these are some, you know, solid citizens here and some heavy hitters who've been part of the schools and contributed an enormous amount to many children and families. And, you know, it will be very sad to see them leave. And, you know, we have to hope that we can, I was just saying to someone the other day, and we talked about it here too, you know, teaching is not a profession that people want to go into these days. And I think, I think it's going to be harder and harder to get good teachers. And I think we will, because I think people want to come to this district. But there's a lot of change and transition going on, and I think we have to really, I think this will add to what the students must have said about paying attention to the change and transition going on with administrators. So I'm hoping at the end of the year we'll have a chance to say goodbye to everybody. But this is a lot of people leaving.
Some are not until 2025, though, right?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
we
Yeah.
do have another year.
Until a whole, yeah, another year.
With some of them.
Right.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
I'm glad that we were able to have a program to offer to these teachers an opportunity to take advantage of a bonus of sorts, if you will, that is a extra reward for all of the work that they've done for us. Because eventually they would retire, and I'm glad that they're able to take advantage of this offer that we have, because I think that's a wonderful way of saying goodbye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, agreed, Dorian.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. And thank you, Jody. Very true. And we will have, you know, in May, we'll have a retirement ceremony. Yeah. Any other questions or comments regarding appointments, amendments, leaves of absence, or retirements? No? Is there a motion to approve our appointments, amendments, leaves of absence, and retirements?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This is for minutes. This would be from our April 3rd meeting. Are there any questions or comments regarding our minutes? Is there a motion to approve our minutes from the April 3rd meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to policy. Do we have an update? Is there something substantive from the policy committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maureen got us
Okay, thanks. Yeah,
I can help. I took some notes.
Let's see. So the first read, I'm only commenting on the first read. Okay.
no.
So about parental involvement, we did well in a recent audit, I think Bill mentioned. But this changes, the need to conduct meetings was specifically kind of raised. So that's what I think our new policy adds in. How do we do that? Using focus groups, which have proven very informative for other purposes. And then kind of how do we loop back that feedback loop, in the future. So that's what kind of the primary change is.
Roundtable discussions is what Bill
Right.
had said.
With specific questions about the parental involvement.
Right.
Oh, it's in the, that's the policy we looked at
So it was
last.
more of an evaluation
meeting.
cycle, and in a way that we ourselves would have to determine whether it's being done, like if after the roundtable or focus group, like my colleague said, we will see whether there's any input that needs to be added to adjust what we currently have as well. So yeah, it was more about that.
Okay,
as
and these
well.
are just first reads, so we're not,
Yes.
we're not
Correct,
voting
correct,
on them
correct.
tonight. Okay, thank you. Bill, I see we have a BOCES budget vote. Do you want to give any background on what that is? Or any sort of...
I mean, I can explain a little bit, Maureen can explain too, but annually you need to vote to support what their budget is, because we are a part of that entity. Part of the budget you've just adopted flows into their budget.
Correct.
So this is a process going on all over for
School
the service area of these districts. As a superintendent, we received a very thorough summary and explanation of this in a recent meeting. I think they've done a good job managing their resources. You do see some changes and adjustments similar to what we've had to face. I think the feeling of the superintendents is that this is a good budget to bring to you. BOCES has brought to you. That's their budget. It's not ours, but they did review it with us.
Okay.
So I would endorse you supporting it. I don't know, Maureen, if you want to add anything to that. I don't know if the business officials got a rundown on it, but we as superintendent certainly did from Harold and his team.
Okay.
Sorry,
yes.
go ahead.
Yes, so as Bill mentioned, we are a component of, for us, it's Southern Westchester BOCES, and we are required to hold this vote, and then the results of which are then sent to BOCES. So what we're really, though, the part in which, and that does impact us directly is what we're really voting, or you're voting on. That's why the resolution says administrative budget, because the administrative budget and the capital budget are reflected in our budget. We are required, we're told, based upon our school enrollment and how much BOCES services we opt into, there's a certain dollar amount that we're then required to pay. So as Bill said, my counterparts meet with my colleague at BOCES, who then walks us through kind of at a high level, the changes within that area. And similar to the district, BOCES has requirements for capturing certain expenses in certain parts of their budget. It's similar to us. It's not like a choice where I decide where things will go. It's sort of, there's like a chart of accounts of where you need to put things. The reason I bring that up is the part in which we pay toward in the administrative budget, much of their employee retirement benefits is in that. And that is something that my colleagues and I for a long period of time have discussed with BOCES in terms of there is a direct impact on districts. So we've said, it's really important for them when they're negotiating their contracts with their unions to be thoughtful about what the dollar amount of those are. So for many years, as an example, districts have long had a practice of having employees pay into their health insurance and also pay into their health insurance and retirement. BOCES did not. So for years, BOCES employees did not pay anything toward their health insurance or their retirement, insurance. And now that has changed, but that really, when they present to us, that's been an opportunity for us to kind of say, hey, like, we are paying that. So we expect we understand that occasionally BOCES, because of their highly specialized programs, sometimes in order to kind of, they occasionally may need to have a little less of a contribution, but, being that we're paying for it. So we're like, you really need to do that, as well as the capital budget. We have an opportunity to kind of weigh in on some of their thinking and decision-making around improvements they make, because again, anything that they do spend, we as a component district are required to pay for,
So with our current budget and with their proposal, do you think that it's fair what it is?
Yeah, I think, like I said, there was a time, I believe even many districts actually voted, I'm talking about many moons ago, voted against it, kind of just, not that I'm suggesting we do that, just there were, just in terms of, or not against it completely, but maybe one or two voices of dissent, because there was a few years in which their budget was going up, much more than local budget. So I will say that the Harold and others there have done an excellent job in really, negotiating those contracts that, that's hard when for a long time they were one way, to get that big change in them. That was, and that's just to kind of say there is that, as Bill said, that give and take, and they do listen to us, and they took our concerns back. They understood that it was, something that we felt very strongly about, and they did go back, and in fact, I think because of that, we're now seeing a much lower, similar to us, we have large increases also, but they've done a really good job in managing those costs over the last 7 to 8 years.
Can I ask just very simple question? So before it comes to us, for the most part, it's something that has been worked on to negotiate.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. That's all I want. Thank you.
Yeah, in my comments, it helps it, and from my text messages where I am, it seems, and again, I'll be out with another group of supers tomorrow morning, but that networking really does help. And it is quite a veteran group. There is a lot of turnover in the super seats, but there's a lot of veterans, and they were endorsing this based on the thorough presentation review. And that history that Maureen has spoken to, many of them lived through that. So I think they feel that Harold and company, Dr. Harold Colston, polite and official, he's leading a good operation. We benefit from it, and he's very open to critique and comment back if it's not what we should provide.
They've done a really good job.
And I think for districts of this size, they're particularly valuable. And yes, we have to pay for those services, witness the earlier vote on the communications, but that's quite an efficient opportunity this next year for the district. We're going to get a lot for that dollar.
Thank you.
And that's an area, for example, where they listen and they've upgraded. Because when Valerie came here, it was better for her to keep the P&W BOCES relationship than Southern Westchester, and they've shifted a bit, just, So that's one example. Within special ed, they're incredibly important. Within career opportunities and services, we provide.
Well, athletics, they run all athletics.
And so there's just, it's a very important, necessary partnership.
Thank you.
Which we pay into, but it's a partnership.
No, but so just summarize it, that I think they've done a wonderful job. Even in terms of their programming, there was a time in which they were almost pricing themselves out of the market with special ed and all the rest, and they have done an incredible, not like a turn, they were always valuable organization, but I will say that all of us have been very impressed with their, responsiveness, and it's a service that we really do rely upon greatly and need, and they've done a good job in trying to be, although they don't have a public vote, right? They're not like ours, it's just districts, but even with that, they were responsive to our concerns, and they addressed them.
That's great to hear.
That's good. Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you for the
so much.
explanation. So we're voting on two things. One is the BOCES budget vote, and also our local BOCES trustee, I guess. It would be re-electing John Filiberti from Eastchester.
Yeah.
So do we vote on these together or
separate motions?
Separate motions? Is there a motion to approve our BOCES budget vote?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve our vote for John Filiberti as our BOCES board trustee?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Going to open up for a second public comment, if there's any desire.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little on what I said before. Thank you all for your consideration of the music program And I realize that some of you would like to have not cut it, but I guess that's the way it goes. But we'll see in the future what happens. I just wanted to present, maybe these figures are wrong. John Carini, chairmanship is 0.2, grade 4 orchestra 0.1, grade 5 orchestra 0.2, grade 6 orchestra 0.1. Rec Tech, I assume that you're cutting one section of that, because I think there were two in the past, 0.2. General music, 0.1. Grade 3 lessons, these are, each one of these is 0.333, I think. So if there's 6 of them, that's 0.2. I'm just going by the figures from this, the numbers from this year. Grade 4 is 0.17. Grade 5 lessons in the orchestra, 0.13. Grade 6 is 0.13, and that adds up to 153. I'll be very happy to be corrected if this is wrong. You know. To have the same teacher teach band and orchestra, especially on so many levels. Grade 5 band is 0.2.1, 7 and 8 band 0.1, 7 and 8 orchestra 0.1. Those are both like really big groups of students in those combined grades. High school band 0.1, high school orchestra 0.1, AP theory 0.2. Grade 5 band lessons, 0.17. Grade 6 band lessons, 0.17. Grade 7 and 8 lessons, 0.13. That's band. Grade 7 and 8 orchestra lessons, 0.1. High school band, 0.07. And high school orchestra, 0.1. You can tell the man does a lot of stuff there, and as I said before, a lot of the students in middle school and high school are not even getting lessons because for whatever reason their instrument is not covered. So that's definitely something that we need to look into in the future as just not really being fair to those students. If it's, you know, if some of the instruments getting lessons, why are some of them not getting lessons? So, yeah, I think I'll just leave it there, and I'd be happy to talk to whoever about whether these figures are right against, or not, because apparently there's some question. Anyway, thanks.
Thank
and
you.
I realize you all have a very difficult job, as Jody was saying, you know. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much.
Moving on to agenda review.
Can I just make one comment? Sorry. Under the new business BOCES budget vote, 2 of the links, the A and B, don't open. It just says file not found. Just FYI. Are we supposed?
I think it opened for me.
Yeah, it did?
For me too.
It downloads.
Are you in the public document or are you in the private
but
document?
it downloads. You might have downloads shut off or something. It downloads, then you have to
Where?
open it from the download. So when you hit the link, it initiates a download to your download
Did
folder.
you sign in?
Mine just
I'm
says
signed in.
file
Says
not
like you're
found.
signing
Oh, I'm
so-
signed in, yeah.
Oh, maybe
si-
I'm on the school computer.
No, are you signed into?
Yeah, it's basically, those are
It's public
two-
content.
Those are 2 documents to be filled out post-vote.
Right.
I just have to fill them out and send them back how you voted.
Okay.
Just so you know it's in there,
I
Doreen.
just can't, but you see, why can't I open it here, though?
Are you logged into your account? Or you just
No, I'm not
into a
logged in,
public
I just
account?
did it as if I'm a regular person.
Oh.
But I think it's a public.
It's a download though. It doesn't open in the browser.
I know.
I don't know. Would you-
Under the BOCES one, right? Because I didn't sign in either, so I want to try with my computer.
Yeah, under the BOCES
Does it work for you?
Yeah, if you're concerned about what's there, just to be clear, that's simply a document that now would get filled out to verify that you voted.
Okay.
It's in that.
That's fine, I just don't like to have anything that's
No, that's what I'm trying to.
in the public that they can't open to.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We'll take a look.
Under 12A and then A and B, Damaris.
Okay.
Just see if you can open it, I can.
We can move on.
Maybe
I'll
it's
let
because
you
I have
know.
a school
For
computer.
example, that's what.
Right, it could be
So
because
it's
I
our
have a school
filtering.
computer. Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what
I can watch YouTube while I
Yeah,
work, but I
yeah,
can't.
I was gonna say, you can watch YouTube, but you can't open a document.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Don't get started.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on to agenda update. So on the April 30th meeting, the main presentation is the Hastings Way Coalition that's going to make a presentation, right?
Right, you have a quite important executive session. That's for you to get, hear about the recommended candidates for tenure. So I will do that.
But we have an executive session before the next meeting?
On the 30th.
On the 30th.
I just have to put it in my calendar.
Yeah, so I would just plan ahead for that, because that is very important. That's a chance for us, and you're right, as a board, to hear before they're actually brought to you for a vote, the candidates. It's a paper presentation, and I would bring notes, and Dr. Szymanski may be there. We're working on that. And typically, I've represented the principals on that. So I'm going through that process right now, meeting with those who are recommending candidates, then I'll meet with the candidates, and then by the 30th, bring that information to you. And we'll post for you in private executive content the memos on each of those individuals, so you have that at least a little bit before that executive session. So, all right. And then, yes, as in a public meeting, there will be a presentation. Linda Facino will join me on that and talking about the Ways Coalition Survey Report. Just a little quick intro. Every other year, some of you may know, there's a wide survey of all of our middle school, high school students on various substance use, etc. And this is a reporting out on that data and information.
Okay.
So Doreen, my McAfee blocked it too. So my
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your what? I'm sorry.
McAfee, the
yeah,
security.
Click on it, the security thing blocks it. So it doesn't allow me to open it either. So, and I'm not signing, right? Just like you, so.
Moving on, I'm going to open up for Board of Education comments.
I would like to give a little recap. I joined Bill and Melissa and Mr. Lopez and Mr. A, and I think 7 or 8 seniors, so from Student Council. They all happen to be seniors. It was a total love fest. And
What, it was just like a meeting you were at?
It was a meeting, so it was my first time attending with students.
Student lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
so
One of the best things to attend.
Yeah,
so
fun.
wonderful.
Especially today.
I took copious notes, as I'm known to do, and I just want to give you the highlights, because I thought it was just a wonderful ode to Hastings in general. So I think first and foremost, and there was kind of a prompt of what should the new principal be thinking about, advice, etc. So I think first and foremost, with so many departures, anxiety, and about change. Some of them had siblings, and they love their experience so much. They want to see some of the best things. So change can be good, but also scary. And then preserving the wonderful, boiling down the best parts and making sure that we keep them. One attendee mentioned the welcoming assembly as a freshman, how that was such a great starting point to feel welcome, be introduced. There was no kind of negative to that. And Mr. A pointed out, well, that was a requirement for the code, but it didn't come across that way. I can tell you.
That's good. It didn't come across,
yeah. A huge nod, and I would say shout out to Mr. A. Ms. Hardesty as well, and Ms. Coker, Ms. Rep. I mean, really kind of a lot of, I guess, very sad to see those teachers and administrators go. For Mr. A, approachable, someone to talk to. Someone even called him his first friend, which I thought was just lovely, so lovely. And I think on a different note, the way that the high school responds to student ideas, and Ileana mentioned that in her comments, just how if a student comes up with something, it's not no, it's always like, well, let's see how we can make that happen. And that support of ideas has really created great things. Someone gave the example of Benny and his creative kind of bringing all the other students here for, I forget what they call that, but like, that's a new program. So just some of those traditions and entertaining new ideas from the students. Preserving the energy, encouraging the younger classmen as this class leaves to be honest and open. Just discussions around, the loss in the guidance department and the focus on mental health, just kind of keep an eye on that, right? Because there are so many departures. And then lovely, this group offered to help which is very nice, and want to be involved. And how can we, get the buzzer going and offer sort of a video, which they did over COVID, on like our advice on classes, our advice on college. So they want to be involved, they want to stay involved, keep them involved. They love the honesty and their sense of belonging. And I guess they ended with, really, it's symbolic of Hastings, and I couldn't agree more. It was really, really lovely. So thanks to everyone that met with me.
Ended with?
How symbolic kind of all of that is of Hastings in general, sense of community and camaraderie, and how special Hastings is as a place. So they're all going to really miss it, which I thought was just really, really nice. So I want to thank them for their time.
That's great. That's great. That was the first time you went there, right?
Yes, it was. It was really nice.
I love it.
It's great. If I could just mention something, because you're sort of to piggyback on the opportunities. I don't know if this is even public knowledge, especially we don't have a paper any longer, but the mayor, Nikki Armacost, was able to secure a Bloomberg climate grant that's worth $50,000. That's being distributed, that will be distributed for kids 15 through 24, residents 15 through 24 in Hastings, to fund any kind of local climate project, like working on pollinator pathways, recycling, composting. Right. No, this is really any project that can be put together, even if the funding needs don't reach a threshold of $1,000. There are micro grants where they will sort of put the projects together, similar things together, and fund them. And so that's, I'm not sure exactly, it's sort of hot off the presses. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's it called?
It's a Bloomberg community grant for climate projects. And the village is putting together a website. I don't think it's up yet.
Okay.
We'll explain everything. We'll have an opportunity for residents to sign up. And so I don't have dates on it, but that's going to be forthcoming, and that's an exciting thing.
It's for 15 to 24 years
15 to 24. There might be some other ways for younger people to participate through sort of a sponsorship of somebody who's in that age bracket. Those details are being worked out. And just to mention, I don't know, I forget if we talked about it as qualifying for this, but one of the project ideas was sort of adopting a storm drain to keep it clean, because actually there are, believe it or not, 570 storm drains in Hastings. Yeah, and the state doesn't provide any funding at all for cleaning them out on a surface level. So that might be one of the things. So I just wanted to mention that. So it's a point of good news. So
I'd like to mention that SEPTA is holding trivia night on Friday. It's a fundraiser. It's very fun. There's food. This coming Friday. There's food. Come with a friend. Come.
Where is it?
It's going to be at the community center. So if you don't have plans, come and support SEPTA. It'll be a fun night.
I signed up. How does the trivia work, though? I was trying to figure that out.
It's on a screen, and people raise their hand and answer.
Okay. Oh, is it like trivia bingo? I couldn't.
Yeah. It's trivia bingo.
Okay. I look forward to it, no matter what.
So it's not coming with a team like it used to be?
You can.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, in previous iterations, it's been that you're seated around the table with your team, and then they put up the questions, and then you guys all answer, and then, obviously at the conclusion, whoever has the most points is the big winner.
Okay.
Right, but all the funds that are raised go towards, at least in past years, were towards the scholarships for graduating seniors, so. I don't know if that's the same.
I'm not sure exactly where all the proceeds will go, but there's a silent auction as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Nice. Yeah. I'll see you there. Thank you for mentioning that. Any other board comments?
Yeah.
No, you go.
I'm gonna, I have a board comment, but I will do it after. But I wanted to give, there was an announcement that was shared to kids with special needs as well. I mean, neurodiversity, let me put it that way. To Hastings, and this came from the faculty, but there is a at the Capitol Theater, I think it's in Port Chester, April 21st, they have an inclusive musical experience that encourages participation from people of all abilities. So it's exciting just to have the interaction, not just with persons with
So that's on
specific
Sunday.
needs. Yes, Sunday. It's at 1:30. And it's not just, they want to create an atmosphere where it's not just, sometimes they just do things with individuals of specific needs, but this is where they want to intermingle, similar to ICT, but in real. And it's the featured musicians are Jules, Harrison, and the Gems, Making Music Matters, and it's an all ages show.
What date again?
Sunday, April 21st at 1:30 p.m. is when the doors open. I think it's a $20 gate fee or something like that. I'm not sure where it's going. I'm sorry, I've not read those details, but I just want to share with everybody as well.
Thank you.
But you go first, and then I'll do my board comment last.
I just have, there've been a number of times that people speak up or send emails about concerns about technology in the district, and I'm just putting it out there that we think going forward that we have some kind of committee to.
Yeah, there is a tech committee. There are 2 more meetings scheduled this year. There is a board representative on that. I think it's Doreen, correct? And Alex,
Good.
or two,
Yeah.
both.
Good, okay.
And by the end of the school year, we should add that to the agenda, actually.
Yeah.
We'll do next
Yeah,
agenda.
we were going to report out, but we were holding it for the next, we had a meeting, but it was our kind of kickoff meeting, but we can
Maybe
give
after
us the minutes for that
What I'm
next
thinking
meeting.
is maybe in one of the June meetings, we can do an update, because we'll have been 1 or 2. And it may have been one of the speakers this evening had been emailing me, actually the board, and I'd responded and gave a very thoughtful list of things we should be considering.
Yeah.
Many of which already line up with what we, so it's a significant effort.
That's great.
So the answer is yes, and the kinds of questions getting asked, we need to
Pay
look at.
attention to. And then I just want to remind the board to think about, we got an email from Lisa O'Reilly about the Memorial Day
marching,
Parade.
yeah.
All right.
And I don't know if I don't think I'm here that day. It's really a fun thing to do, to march, and usually we used to carry this banner, right?
yes.
Donna,
Yeah.
Wendy.
You come to the
It's
truck.
really
You
fun.
rode
It's
the truck
fun.
one time, right, Dawn?
Yeah, we did ride in a truck, but it's fun. It's just a fun thing to do. So if anybody's around, and it'd probably be better to have more than one person, so you can carry a banner. But if I'm around, I told her I
I think I'll
volunteer.
be here.
But it's yeah. So
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for pointing that out. Yeah. Any other board comments?
Yeah, I do have a board comment I'm going to read, and it's same old, like Doreen said, she's been doing the technology stuff, and now it's all circled back. Mine is same old. So I want to, again, it's with the community coming in here, and not everyone is bold enough to do that. We've had individuals reached out to us on both sides of the coin, and this is a difficult work where you are sitting here to forget about your values and what you want and work on consensus and equity. And because this is a public, if it's a private place, you get to choose what you want to do, how you want to do it, and that's it. But this is a public institution that has to navigate the work of equity in a humanistic way to support all. And there is an unrest. This unrest is in our society as a whole, and Hastings cannot pretend we will be immune to it. And especially being that Hastings, we are very vocal in what we believe in and everything like that. No one can silence anybody. And so I'm just hoping that the school will find a way to, we all together will find a way to be very intentional and not think that we can just, it's not going to stop. And I'm just anticipating a continuous ganging up, because at first a lot of these things were behind closed doors. Emails, conversations, right? It came to Doreen many times, it came to me, and I personally, Doreen would talk about it, so I didn't think I needed to talk about it. Doreen would talk on this side of the fence, and I'll talk on that side of the fence, because I thought we were bringing it here. But now people are like, nothing is getting done. So I wrote something I just want to read, because I think it to capture what I'm trying to say. I have a whole lot, but I just want to read this. I want to wake us all up and echo that there is a growing unrest happening with the broader work of equity. For all of us, the lens of equity is shifting from diversity, equity, inclusion into value assertions against each other. We are doing this against each other. And a lot of the social political push, which is currently within our society, is pushing those current waves and culture into our public spaces. And all of this would only go in one direction or the other if we don't get expert navigation. This work is difficult, and no expert gets it right. They have to do it over and over and over again. They make mistakes and they get up, have to clean it. And it's very organic in nature. So an expert navigated framework that allows a work of diversity to embody a humanistic drive, prioritizing equity over everything else is what will help us, because then again within the same microphone there is these assertions that are poured out, and what do we do with it? You can't choose one over the other. We have to look at it and provide the work of equity. There is a concerted equity cannot be assumed to be done out of our own goodwill. It transcends that, because we all have our personal values. And if we are serving a broader group of individuals that sit in different backgrounds, that lens is necessary to navigate it from that level. It's different if it's, and guess what? Every focus group will fight for what is theirs, and through social political means or not. And that is what we hear in the on the microphones, bring in data and all of those things. So how are we going to actually do the work is very important, and there are ways to do it. I know that factually, again. I know that factually, and I'm hoping that we will get on it at some point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sooner than later, though.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No?
I just have one comment to make about technology, because I have to, because it was brought up. But I always think it's interesting when someone's job is technology and they're warning us about technology. I think those are the experts we should be heeding and listening to.
Good point.
Anybody else? No? Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.